Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beat your price. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beat your price.
This is a More Than Just podcast production.
Welcome to Spotcast Season 7, Episode 3. My name is Dimitra. I am in Toronto, Ontario, and I am joined by Jonathan Kuline in Mississauga, Ontario.
Hello there, kids.
We also have Jaime Lopez Jr. on the line in Seattle, Washington.
How's it going?
Alrighty, so let me find my notes again. Where'd they go? I lost them. Yes. Oh, do we have a fact check?
No.
Is this from Jonathan? Oh, this is from Jaime? No.
Well, that was the thing that Jaime just put in.
Oh, okay. We're not going to talk about that. Okay, right.
Well, yeah, fact check. We're an organic homemade podcast.
That's
my cheeky
We are a
way of
genuine trio of human beings, we assure you.
Yeah.
And not, in fact, an algorithm that does podcasts.
Right. Although, yeah. We'll play some samples. Here's a sample, for example.
Ever get sucked into those security guard movie marathons? You know, the ones where they're practically superheroes in a uniform, taking down bad guys and spouting legal jargon like it's nobody's business? Well, today we're trading Hollywood for a dose of reality as we dive into the pages of a real security guard's manual.
And let me tell you, it's a lot less about dazzling combat skills and more about understanding the ins and outs of the job, the legal limits, the essential procedures, how to handle emergencies. It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it's like peeking behind the curtain of an often overlooked profession.
Exactly.
And we're back. All right. Yeah. So, Jonathan, you're up with the headlines.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to start off with a little bit of down news, but it is what it is. So we lost a couple people this week. Maggie Smith, the two-time Oscar winner and famous actress, of course, for Harry Potter films, Downton Abbey. She died at the age of 89. Obviously, a legend in her time. She was, larger than life. She was a tremendous performer, and she's just the latest in this sort of all the adults, all the school teachers seem to be dropping like flies. We really are kind of running out of that generation of Harry Potter actors. It's kind of sad to see them all go, but man, what a legacy. She was an absolute icon from the beginning of her days to the end of her days. And we could all wish for so much success and yeah, it was pretty big loss. I haven't watched Downton Abbey. Are you guys Downton Abbey fans?
Yeah, I've watched the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's really good in that one. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, have you seen the clips that they play of her where the one woman says, and actually she's I think she played Sean's mother on Shaun of the Dead. She's one of her friends in the thing, and she says, something about it's okay to have a failure every now and then, and Maggie Smith's character says, I don't know the concept.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Yeah, I've seen clips, especially in the last week. There's been a lot of stuff circling around. And again, she's a performer. I've certainly enjoyed her work over the years. But I know that was something she was very iconically famous for. Obviously, she won her Oscars back in the 60s and 70s. So, not obviously contemporary in that way. Although she's, like some of her older roles I've certainly seen. And she's delight. She's an absolute delight. But yeah, it's again, it's unfortunately some of that age of Hollywood is just going now. So it's a loss. We also had another loss this week, and somebody who's not quite as well known, although also got a second bite at the apple. So David Graham died. He is known to current generations as the voice of the Grandpa Pig on Peppa Pig. So there's a whole, a second, bite at the apple. But for older fans, like, I don't know, say the oldest person on this podcast, he was on the Thunderbirds, and he was the original voice of the Daleks in Doctor Who. So this is somebody who, again, you probably wouldn't know to look at him, although in England I think he was a little more well known. But he was a very famous voice actor and did that for a long time and passed away this week at the age of 99. So again, big win on life for this guy.
Oh, he played Gordon Tracy Parker, who was the chauffeur, and Brains, who was the rainy guy. Cool. Your cousin, his Facebook avatar is Brains from Thunderbirds.
Nice.
Yeah. Your Irish cousin, that is. Yeah, a couple of other ones too. Chris Christopherson just died, and he may not be like, people may not think of him in context of this show in particular, but he once played the role of Han Solo on Donnie and Marie's send off to Star Wars. And it's interesting because I'd only ever seen a really, really low res, QuickTime movie of R2D2 and C3PO and Donnie and Marie dressed as Luke and Leia, obviously. But Chewbacca and Chris Christopherson playing, and they had a whole musical number. They had stormtroopers doing,
It was awful. I shared it on our Slack channel, not maybe a month ago, and we were making a lot of light of it, and coincidentally that Christopherson just died, and of course he was in Blade, too. He was in sort of the first good or great Marvel movie. He was the sort of mentor to Blade in the Blade movie.
In that, what's his name? That the guy with the mustache is always in everything.
Wesley Snipes.
No, the other guy.
The other guy?
Yeah, there's an actor who Sam. The guy with the mustache, the guy from The Dude. The narrator.
Sam Shepard.
Sam Shepard. Yeah, he's sort of in that kind of role, right? Like the grizzled mentor kind of role. Was he
Sam Elliott or Sam Shepard?
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott's the one with the big mustache. He's now on Family Guy. Yeah, Sam Elliott.
Yeah, him. That guy there. But I also want to point out that Frank from American Pickers also passed away. I don't know if anybody knows who he is, but I watch American Pickers all the time when I'm bored and have nothing to do and thinking about mindfulness. And he was only 60, John. So, yeah. Wow. I noticed he'd not been on the show for a couple of years now. I know why. Yeah. Anyway, back to happy news.
All right, let's spin over to the happy news. We got 3 really cool trailers this week. We got Thunderbolts, we got The Last of Us Season 2, and we got Ballerina. So starting with Thunderbolts, this was our first kind of longer look. We knew, obviously, they had revealed sort of who was going to be.
We did see a previous, because I thought I'd seen parts of this before.
We didn't really get a trailer before. What we got was a lot of stuff at like Comic-Con of like, these are all the people who are going to be in it. And so this was our first kind of look at a scene. And, we sort of see the Thunderbolts assemble kind of thing going on in here. And, I liked it. I like a lot of the characters. I'm definitely still weighing on this movie, and I as a comic fan, kind of know what they're doing with it. Like, there's a mysterious character that they introduce in the trailer that is a character from comic books that comic fans will know. But it's Bob in the trailer. Yeah, I mean, again, I love Florence Pugh is fantastic. I look forward to seeing more of her. I mean, they're kind of doing the greatest hits, right? They're bringing, Winter Soldier. They're bringing back the characters from Black Widow. They're bringing back the Ghost character from Ant-Man 2, and the U.S. agent from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So it's kind of this, Suicide Squad-y kind of group of Marvel characters. And I don't know. I thought the first trailer was pretty solid. So I don't know. What'd you guys think?
That's pretty good. I like the guy from what's this? Stranger Things dude. Harbour. David
Harbour. Yeah.
He plays the dad.
Yeah.
The Russian dad in Black Widow, and of course Florence Pugh is reprising her role from Black Widow and from that other show with the Hawkeye guy. Yeah. Looks good.
I like the fact that it's stakes that are a little bit easier to comprehend. It's a little bit more like Civil War, Winter Soldier type stakes. the movie poster, which I don't think they have linked here, do they? They do not. But if you search for the movie poster, it goes along with what is this user's name? @GoldFilms995 on YouTube says, this team has the energy of that group project where nobody wants to do the work, but still wants an A. And so it feels like that's the vibe they're going for, you know, this ragtag team of misfits. This is the dollar store or Temu version of the Avengers.
Yeah, I mean, these are all characters that probably wouldn't have gotten their own thing, so it's kind of nice that they're putting them all together and giving them a little time to shine. Again, I think Florence Pugh's a legit A-list star, and she can carry a movie. She's funny, she's dramatic, she's athletic. I think she can pull that off. And then, you know, obviously throw in Sebastian Stan and as the Winter Soldier and a few other characters. Like it's, and you know, we saw Julia Louis-Dreyfus back as the Contessa. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all comes together. But it looks like I will say the one thing that it's nice that it seems like it's both grounded and also it seems like it's not going to take itself super seriously. It seems like it's going to be a little more playful and lots of banter, and I like that. I think I'm good with a Marvel movie like that. I don't need them all to be like deadly serious. That's what we have DC movies for.
Right.
Last of Us season 2. This was a pretty epic trailer, like really kind of talking about things that take itself seriously. This looks pretty deadly serious. You know, obviously picking up years after the events of the first season. You know, lots of little knowing glances.
Is it years after, or because in the game it kind of picks up where it left off? There's two plot lines in the game, right?
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I don't know what they're doing, but it looks to me like they're supposed to have sort of settled back in and a little more comfortable back in the town they were in, and then it kind of looks like it goes awry and you know, back on the road with our heroes again. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this, you know, plays out. Obviously, you know, Tim, I know you played the second game, so a lot of people have that insight. Did anything catch your eye from this that you were like, oh yeah, I can't wait to see that?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, there's the Catherine O'Hara character who's playing someone that he knows. Like he's taking Ellie to the place where those people are living. And it's kind of like, you know, okay, like this is where the new world order in this case. There's also a scene where you see Ellie with another young lady. That might be because there was a sort of a flashback story told. Like in the game, there's the first plot, which is the A plot with the two main characters, and there's a B plot with Ellie and her friend, and you know the zombies, and they're in the shopping mall and stuff like that. And
that's Abby. That's the Abby character.
I think so, yeah. And I know so there was a young lady in the clip, so I'm not sure if that's going to be that storyline is going to come out or not, right? Sort of.
I think so, because they cast Caitlin Dever, who has been in a lot of different stuff over the past few years, as Abby. I know that she was cast, and I saw her in the trailer, but I haven't played the second game, so I don't know where that
don't
fits
have her
in.
Context, yeah.
Yeah, but I like her. She's a good performer. I really enjoy her work, so it'll be good to see how she fits in.
Yeah.
Jaime, anything grab you, or the opposite?
I thought it looked good. I have not played this one, so I don't know what's going to happen going into this season. Apparently, we don't know when, other than 2025. So yeah. I don't know if that's production schedule unclear, or if they're all in the can and they're like, let's just see when we're going to have a bad quarter and then shove it there so we paper over the bad quarterly results. So we know this is a hot property for people to watch.
Well, and they're going to spread these things out too, because they do have another Game of Thrones series coming next year. The Night of the Seven Kingdoms is coming, so you know they're going to spread these IP pieces out over the course of the year to try and maximize the retention on their streaming service. But it looks pretty done, and I know they had finished filming quite a while back. Obviously you have to do a lot of work in post to do all the mushroom zombie creatures and everything else, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that, you know, prior to mid-year. So the last thing we got a trailer for was Ballerina. This is something in the expanded John Wickiverse, so you know, from the people who brought you 4 John Wick movies and The Continental, we are getting this sort of more expansion of the John Wick universe. This one starring Ana de Armas from Blade Runner and Knives Out and all kinds of other stuff. She's a very hot property in Hollywood. And to me, it seemed very, very derivative. It seemed very much like it's John Wick, but with a beautiful woman instead of a handsome man. But that's not to say I'm not 100% in, because I am like, she looks fantastic. She looks like, obviously between her and stunt performers, it looks like it's very, pew pew, kick kick, punch punch, good. And, they've got, the soundtrack, and there even does seem like there's going to be some famous faces in there. We see in the trailer, we see, Ian McShane is back as Winston. We see the late Lance Reddick in probably one of his last roles as the concierge at the Continental, and even John Wick himself seems to be in that trailer. So, yeah, I think to me this looks like a definite watch at some point. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely. It looks interesting. I just saw an interview with her on one of the late night shows the other day talking about this role and working with Keanu and all that stuff. So yeah, it's interesting. She was also the young spy that helps Daniel Craig in the last No Time to Die, right? So she's in that too.
That's right.
Yep. Looking forward to it. I'm sure it'll blow up real good.
Yeah, I mean, it looks just like that scene where she's like walking through and they've got like the lights going and the house music. I'm like, this is John Wick. This is just John Wick. Yeah. They're just doing John Wick. But again, not in a bad way. It's a fantastic franchise, and if you're there to go just watch something, get lots of kicking and punching and pew pew, and you're gonna get what you paid for. Bad news for horror fans. The Chucky TV show from USA Network and Sci-Fi has been canceled. But this article that we've got from IO9 and Gizmodo says that there is a possibility that it could come back in a different way. It could come back as a movie or something else. I mean, obviously, Chucky's been a character since the 1980s and has come back in many incarnations over the years. This one they did 3 seasons of this series, and obviously they've done a bunch of movies and spin-offs and all kinds of stuff. So I'm not sure that we've seen the last of Chucky, but for this incarnation, it seems like it's over. Were either of you watching this? I'm not a massive horror fan, so this is not up my alley.
I wasn't watching it, but our relative Justin works on that show.
Oh, is he working on that one?
He was. I'm just checking his IMDb right now.
Yeah, I was watching this one and comparing it to Cobra Kai, where I said the teenage characters in both shows I'm not super compelled by. I don't know if it's a knock on them or the writing, or I don't know if it's because becoming a grizzled old man and I can't relate to the kiddos anymore. If there's any Gen Zers, Gen Alphas out there who are like, oh no, I totally, recognize myself in just pick any teen character from Cobra Kai or teen character from Chucky, the TV show. What I really loved was how both shows paid a lot of attention to just fan service after fan service after fan service for longtime nostalgia freaks like myself. So it doesn't surprise me that this show is getting canceled here. I'm bummed, but it doesn't surprise me because it's nuts that they even did a season, much less 3. And it is an unfortunate bummer that it ends on a cliffhanger, but not like one that I would feel uncomfortable saying, all right, that's an okay spot to leave it.
Well, it just
doesn't resolve, but it's like, okay.
Yeah, as we were saying, it's also, this is not the last we've seen of Chucky. It's the last we've seen of Chucky in this incarnation at this time, but there will be more. Of course, there's more. It's an IP that's very valuable, that has obviously shown it's got legs for almost 40 years. So I don't think this is the demise of Chucky forever. So,
and I don't know which to watch, Chucky or Venom first.
Well, the thing I will say is that given that we've seen, James Earl Jones give his voice rights over to the AI folks, I think Brad Dourif needs to do the same, because then what you just said will actually be true of like, there will be no end to Chucky, even if the voice actor dies at some point.
Wait, Brad Dourif is Chucky?
He has consistently been Chucky, except for the Child's Play reboot that was Mark Hamill for that one. Otherwise, it's been consistently him, and even his daughter appears in some of the movies and the TV show, like his real life daughter.
Yeah. Interesting. And Mark Hamill was in the. You said Mark Hamill did the voice of Chucky?
Of Chucky in the remake version.
Oh, cool. But not this TV show version.
Not the TV show. Sorry, from the original movies to the next set of movies to the TV show has been consistently Brad Dourif.
Right. Huh. Interesting. I'm seeing Chucky in a clip here. No sound on, but he's balding with gray hair. He's
that is a storyline for season 3. Each of the seasons storylines are pretty interesting, pretty entertaining. Again, the teen drama I can't really get my head around, but the nostalgia and continuation of storylines of, oh my gosh, I can't believe they threw this in here. This is like literally a concept from the late 80s, early 90s, that kind of thing.
Cool. Yeah, what's next, John?
Yeah, so this is something that I wanted to flag just because I'm a fan of the comics. So there's a comic book called The Beauty, which I really enjoyed. Came out from Image Comics within the last 5-6 years. Written by Jeremy Hahn, and it's really good, really interesting. I would say it's low-grade horror. It's not like over the top horror. It's not like slashery stuff, but it's a really interesting comic. It's going to be made into a TV show for FX, and the good news from that is it's coming from Ryan Murphy, who Ryan Murphy is the guy behind American Horror Story, which is a very popular franchise. And it's going to star Evan Peters and Ashton Kutcher. So they've got some star power behind this, which I was very pleasantly surprised, because I thought when I read it, I thought this might make an interesting story for the screen at some point, but I wasn't really sure if it would get the treatment it deserves, getting Murphy and Kutcher and Evan Peters, who just won an Emmy within the last couple of years, to work on this is pretty exciting. So basically it's about what if you could make yourself beautiful by transmitting a sexually transmitted disease. Like you basically like leech people's beauty or pass along the beauty. So the beauty is actually the name of a sexually transmitted disease in this, but apparently as you'd imagine, it kind of goes off the rails where people are taking advantage of, this stuff, and other people are taking advantage of them. And yeah, it's really interesting. I highly recommend the book. You can pick them up obviously at your local comic store or Barnes and Noble or whatever. But yeah, it sounds like it's going to be. It sounds like it's going to have some weight behind it. And FX makes good shows, so I'm really encouraged by the sound of this one. So I'll put my stamp on that one and say keep your eyes out, because it sounds like it could be really good.
I wonder if there's like a theme going on in media, because put this one aside for a moment, and I think we can all agree that there's definitely a multiverse theme going on. Certainly the MCU, the DC universe, the freaking Simpsons has had multiverse stuff. Like there's a whole bunch of multiverse stuff. Mm-hmm. But I would say people should also start to look at, because now with 2 items, there is now an official trend. So the thing that Jonathan just mentioned, but also I happened to watch a Netflix show based on a 2005 novel called Uglies. Mm-hmm. And when I watched it on Sunday afternoon, while doing the laundry and the dishes and all that other sort of chore stuff, I said, boy, this really feels like you asked Chat GPT to say, you know what, I really liked Divergent, I really liked The Hunger Games, can you give me something like that? And I
need a
assumed,
YA thing, it's got to star Joey King.
I absolutely 100% thought it was an original property until I looked it up. I'm like, oh no, there's 4 books: Uglies, Pretties, Specials, and Extras. Just like, Divergent, Insurgent, Allegiant. Detergent is always the one I bring up.
This is so dumb. Yeah, I saw the trailer for that, and I've enjoyed. I saw Joey King in something last year, and I thought, oh, she's really good. I will seek out more of her work. And then I saw that, and I was like, oof, not that.
Right.
All right, Jaime, bring us home on the headlines.
Well, before you dive into this one, just reading the headline here on Jaime's, it talks about Shark Tank, but I'd like to point out that Shark Tank started its life as Dragon's Den in Canada.
Yeah.
Let me be the boorish American stereotype and say, while there was an original The Office in the UK, nobody cares about that one. People, it's the American
Dragon's Den is
The
still
Office.
on the air, and Mr. Wonderful is still on the show. So.
Oh, I'm totally saying this tongue in cheek because, people have to acknowledge the American version of The Office is certainly based on the UK version, no doubt. So, I don't think you would be able to ask random people, ironically, out on the Amazon, have you heard of Dragons? And be like, no, bro, I haven't. Have you heard of Shark Tank? Oh, yeah, with Mark Cuban, right? Yeah, exactly, that one.
Yeah.
You've heard of that one.
Village Tribe. Because a couple of weeks ago, I sent a message to somebody on LinkedIn, and I mentioned Dragon's Den, and I got crickets back, right? So I figure you're probably right about that. If I had said Shark Tank, I might have got their attention, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, take it away, Jaime.
Yeah, in this era where Amazon is like, it's not enough that we have to put ads in Prime. So I watch Rings of Power with commercial breaks. And they said, we got to find another way. And they said, you know what? Shark Tank, longtime, member Mark Cuban is departing the show after like a dozen years, something like that. They're weak. There's an opportunity in the market. And they said, what if we launched our Buy It Now show, where I'm just going to really literally lead from this Verge article. If the crowd votes for the contestants, the panelists pick which ones will show up on Amazon's Buy It Now store, a new storefront launching alongside the show that viewers can reach using a QR code that shows up during episodes. And one presenter per episode will get a $20,000 prize too. So you're watching a reality TV show that quite literally is like QVC with reality TV show on top of it, mechanics.
Doesn't this show just seem inevitable? Like, this seems like it's just always gonna happen.
Yeah. And I think the reason I even brought this up, right? There's many things, editorial, choices that we can make here. The reason I brought this one up is partially to complain about, like, man, Amazon's going to crank up even more ads. the ads are so successful on Prime Video. Guess what, people? There's going to be even more. But also, I'm actually going to give this one a try because they made a smart move. Ordinarily, be like, it's kind of a pass. They got JB Smoove to be the host, and that's enough of a hook for me to give it a couple of episodes. It's not going to get me. That's to get me enticed. You can. What's the saying? You got me to notice. Now you have my attention. I have the quote wrong there.
You got to wash the dishes sometime, right?
That's right. Laundry's got to get done.
Exactly.
At Jaime's house, anything's on the table when the laundry's coming out. Could be Paw Patrol. Could be this.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to commit right here. If Michael Bay produces a live-action Paw Patrol movie, I promise you I will be there on day one.
Nice.
If this somehow happens, I'm probably signing up
on
for the wrong
carpet,
thing.
Or what?
Okay, let me just turn right to the invisible camera here and be like, Hollywood, if you are going to have a red carpet, yes, I will appear for the premiere with a t-shirt. I have no idea what adult paraphernalia they have for Paw Patrol.
I feel like this is one of those ones, like there's got to be like an adult,
right? Yeah,
there's got to be like an adult thing, like Bronies, the guys who are into My Little Pony. It's got to be like an adult Paw Patrol group somewhere.
Yeah.
That's a good Google search. Anyway, we are at the main part of the show where we talk about usually something Star Trek related, but we're waiting for Star Trek to come back. In the meantime,
we'll get some soon.
In the meantime, we will talk about the big reveal on the second episode we're going to talk about of The Lord of the Rings. But yeah, it's funny. I've read that book in 1980, and I just made the connection to who the Lord of the Rings is today. Anyway, because they said it right in the show. Anyway, but we're talking about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, and we're talking about season 2, episode 7, Doomed to Die, and the season finale, episode 8, Shadow and Flame. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to throw it over to Jonathan to round us up.
Yeah, so we'll start with our elevator pitch. So we'll start with episode 7, and we'll obviously go towards 8. Episode 7, elevator pitch. There's always darkness before the light, and that's good because it's getting pretty darn dark in Eregion.
Right.
I had Mr. Celebrimbor tear down this wall.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's funny. I'm just trying to remember. Like, it's been like a while since I saw that show, but I don't have an elevator pitch for this one. But I do have a really good pew pew pew.
All right.
But this is the one where this is the.
Well, this is the pew pew pewiest episode of the entire series so far.
But my pew 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 is maybe something you didn't pick for pew pew pew. But because this is the one where trying to think of an analogy here. That Celebrimbor is sort of, he's in a bubble, right? He's wearing the Vision Pro while the big war is going on outside, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's why you got to be careful with those things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But he's probably using a Quest, because if he was using a Vision Pro, he'd have passed through to be able to see what's going on.
There you go. Anyway. There you go. Yeah, this was definitely the pew pew pewiest episode we've gotten of the Rings of Power series so far. Where it seems like the season was a bit of a slow burn to start, and we definitely observed that it was it was building, and this is where the payoff came, where, man, it was just, we didn't cut away to a lot of other things. We were just there. We were there to just watch this big, epic battle where the orcs, or Uruk, came and attacked Eregion, and, their misconception that they're there for the elves, but in fact they're there and they're targeting Sauron at Adar's behest. And we definitely got a lot of stuff going on in this one, with trebuchets launching rocks, with mountainsides collapsing, with a Ravager, which is just the best name for a device I've ever heard in warfare. The Ravager that's supposed to knock holes in the wall. We get an epic scene with this troll marching through, stomping on friend and foe alike, and taking on a dozen guys at a time. And we also got this sort of convergence too, where we had all these characters, elven characters in particular, all on the field of battle at the same time. We had Galadriel there. We had Arondir, who had come all the way up from Pelargir. We had obviously Elrond and King Gil-galad. We had sort of this whole thing going on, and it got pretty pew pew pewy. And meanwhile, like you say, we also had this weird sort of psychological war going on inside, where Celebrimbor is in this,
he's in the Matrix.
He's in this hallucination that Sauron's created, but apparently it is the Matrix, because he sees the cat twice, right? In this case it's a mouse, but just like the Matrix, I think I just had deja vu, like, and then you see him marking the candle and stuff like that. But I just wanted to shout out, we really haven't talked enough about it, but Charles Edwards, who plays Celebrimbor, has been just truly exceptional. And Charlie Vickers as Sauron / 16 other names has also been really, really great this year. But Charles Edwards, man, this episode, he just hit home run after home run. His speeches, the way he talks, the chemistry between those two actors. And I did watch a little bit of the behind the scenes thing, where they basically said they shot it chronologically over the course of a month.
Oh, yeah.
And they had these two guys, and basically, like, all these scenes where it's just kind of the two of them in this forge, in Eregion, they just kind of, their chemistry grew. And you can tell by the time you're getting to these last few episodes, like, both the love / hate relationship, like, we get these great lines from Celebrimbor where he's like, I kind of knew what this guy was up to, but I wanted what he was offering me. And you can tell that even Sauron, who is this epitome of evil, you can tell that he has a genuine affection for the character, and the way that Charlie Vickers plays it, with just all these little facial movements and the way he looks at him. And it certainly comes to a head in the final episode, but it was, the two of them are really just exceptional in a show that's got some really good performances. Really, really, really cool stuff in these last two episodes.
Yeah, this episode, Rings of the Doom to Die, probably was the best episode I've seen so far, I think, all around, right? Just from beginning to end, it was,
Well, it didn't jump around as much, right? Like, and we talked about this on Game of Thrones as well. The episodes where, they're trying to touch in on, we gotta spend 5 minutes over here with this character. We gotta spend 10 minutes over here with this character. And this one, they jumped a little bit. We did get some time in Khazad Dûm, but we really focused most of this episode for over an hour on this sort of confluence of events outside of Region. And I think that fluidity, that sort of focus on one place, I think that was a nice payoff for us, having watched them kind of dip and bop. I think that was the number one sort of issue I had with the first sort of chunk of the season, was we kind of were dipping in and dipping out on so many different fronts that it was a little bit hard to care about everybody all at once.
And hard to follow too.
Yeah, it certainly could be. I mean, I think this show will definitely benefit from time in not being a weekly drop. I think having this as a sit down and watch as many episodes as you want show going forward, I think will be probably a better experience, just because you can control the pace of it. You won't feel those, hey, I haven't seen The Stranger and the Harfoots in 3 weeks moments, because you could just watch them 2 hours later. Hi, man, I want to hear what you thought.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty well done, because you really have to nail, to your point, some of these relationships. And for this episode, the Celebrimbor and Anatar, Sauron, it works out really well. Like, it feels believable that a guy would have sweet nothings whispered into his ear and be convinced to make these things and not really look beyond the veil until he notices the one weird thing and realizes another weird thing. The hammer's missing a gem or something. Like, like, it felt realistic to be like, oh crap, what have I done here? This isn't good. And I really enjoyed it. And it happens pretty well, considering that if you were to put these all together, like if you took a cut, because it's all digital now, right? Of like, show all of these different timelines just all the way through. Show exactly what happens with these guys. Show exactly what happens at Khazad Dûm. Show exactly what happens. It would feel probably still just as good. Like, it doesn't need to be interspersed with other things to play things out. Like, I think you could make it it's not really a one-person show. It's more like a stage show, right? You could just have this one room. They're just there in the forge area as the entire set that they have for this entire play. And I'm like, yeah, it works pretty well. You have an arc there that was pretty well designed.
Yeah, I can't imagine a real-life scenario where a leader would be telling people exactly what they want to hear to fool them into following him.
It always happens, people. Got to be diligent. Got to do those fact checks. 1,000 years ago, 1,000 years from now.
It kind of sounds like you're describing Waiting for Godot, but with rings.
Yeah. So this one definitely did kind of take us all over the place. We did have some reunitings in this episode that were really good too. We finally got Prince Durin and Elrond back together. They spent obviously a huge chunk of time together in the first season, and their relationship, their sort of bromance, was, I think, one of the highlights of the first season. And here we are, 7 episodes into an 8-episode season. We finally got them together, and they were together for 2 minutes, but still, I'll take what I can get. And also, we get Galadriel, sort of reunited in the most inopportune way, where they basically reveal her as the elves on horses are, riding down to massacre the orcs. They're like, hit the brakes. I'm not convinced that the horses would all stop that fast, but here we are. But and then we get this sort of the weird moment where you see Elrond lean in and give her a big smooch, which is obviously meant to be a distraction while he slips her the hairpin so she can get herself out. But it was a weird moment to see Elrond sucking face with Galadriel, especially because in the comic books he's her mother-in-law. Or not the comics, the books. In the books, he's her mother-in-law, which is a little weird. Like, yeah, I might have made it.
Mother-in-law? What?
Yeah,
he's her mother-in-law.
She's his mother-in-law, I should say.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. Well,
that would be a weird conversation to be having with your future wife. Like, I may have made it with your mom once.
Yeah.
But it was kind of cool to see, because this show obviously excels in like spreading out the world, making the world feel big, moving these characters around the chessboard. And so when you get this sort of confluence that brings them all together, it does feel big. It feels epic. And then throw in a cave troll or a hill troll, and you're really there. So onto the pew pew pew. For mine, I did have the scene with the hill troll. I felt like that was sort of the best pew pew pewy moment, just because it was so over the top as far as the ridiculousness of the violence. He's crushing people's heads. He's using orcs as Orcan shields, and that I thought was a pretty good sort of 5-minute stretch of action. But I'm curious, Tim. I want to know what it is that you picked out.
Oh, in terms of the pew pew pew.
Mm-hmm.
The scene where the soldiers are standing around Sauron, and there's like 5 or 6 of them, and they've all got their blades pointed at him, and he kind of just does the Jedi mind trick hand movement thing, and they all end up killing each other.
Yeah, that was good. There was definitely, I liked in that moment where he sort of locks eyes, because he doesn't even really acknowledge the soldiers. He just locked eyes with Celebrimbor and is like, "Did you really think you were the only one that I had influence over?" And then you see him you realize that he's actually taken control over pretty much every elf that he came into contact with. And you realize, oh, this is bad. This is really, really bad.
I had a slightly different, I did have that one, that set of things, pew pew pews. I also appreciated the damming of the river, where it was like, hey, they've stopped using their trebuchets. I guess that's follow up from the last time. We weren't sure if they were catapults or trebuchets because I didn't get a good look at them.
If they have projectiles or trebuchets,
they've turned them around.
Counterweights. If they have a counterweight, there,
yeah. And they've turned them away. He's like, get ready for a ground assault. And it's like, oh, because they're going to cause an avalanche and use that to block the river and then do a ground assault. I thought that was pretty inventive.
I thought so too, although I did think it was a little bit, illogical. I'm maybe just a little too much of a science nerd, but I'm like, it's not like the river just instantly dries up and you can walk across it. And, there's one scene where like somebody tries to go through with a horse and the horse goes in up to its like chest. That would be more like what you'd be dealing with. It would be like, 6 feet of squishy swamp goo at the bottom. Like, it's not quite, I think, as easy as it would have worked out, but you kind of have to suspend disbelief in those moments because it makes it really good.
They also do say that orcs are kind of just like a massive, like they just run at their opponents. They don't care about the conditions, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But then later on we see Elrond out there like running through the muck and everything with the for 5 seconds for some unknown reason introduced and then quickly killed character. You're going to have a hero shot in this and then you'll be dead. We've introduced this new character and you'll be dead soon. That was really kind of, I thought, a little pointless.
But if it was Orlando Bloom, he would just be leaping over the stones, right?
Yeah, exactly. I thought Easter egg wise, there was a couple of ones that stood out to me. They referred to Sauron as the Deceiver in this one, which is something obviously that carries on through the books and into the modern movies. That the Deceiver is one of the great titles for Sauron, and the other one is just that troll fight because it's very reminiscent of the troll fight inside the Mines of Moria, right? Where we see that's where they discover that Frodo's wearing the mithril thing when the troll comes after them and gets stabbed, but he doesn't actually kill him because he's got his mithril outfit on, but. Yeah, that definitely triggered a memory for me. Did you guys catch anything?
Not as such.
A couple of things came to my mind that I don't want to sort of forget in the many things that happened here in this episode and a bunch of things in the next episode. My big question is maybe just personal to me. So remember, I have this fan theory that Beric is going to eventually become Samwise Gamgee, like as the reincarnation, like this horse that's unreasonably, awesome. And the counterbalance you have here is the sad horse that gets taken out. And I said, what kind of psychopath kills a horse? They're valuable. It just shows you how nuts the Uruks are.
Yeah, I think when they see horses, especially pretty white elven horses, they're like, well, that's a snack food, not a riding tool.
Yeah. And I don't think we mentioned at the top that the Easter egg that I had is the title "Doomed to Die" is from the Ring poem, where mortal men, capital M men, are doomed to die.
Yeah,
the race of men.
Yeah, and I think we'll see more of that in season 3 because it looks like that's where we're headed next, is to the world of men. But the quotes, there was some good ones in here. I liked Celebrimbor's. This one I feel like I could put on a poster and sell it. When the world is still, then the ideas can flow freely. When he's talking about how nice it's been to have this quiet time while the bombs are going off outside and he doesn't know what's going on. You truly are the great deceiver. You can deceive even yourself. That's Celebrimbor to Sauron. I like that one a lot. And then the couple of the ones from Celebrimbor, there was two little speeches when he cuts off his thumb, which is a pretty gnarly scene, and he runs into Galadriel and he says, it was my fault from the beginning. A part of me knew, a part of me saw, but I wanted what he offered, so I blinded myself to what he was. Again, you got that sense that there was a willingness. He did want to prove himself, and he knew that there was probably something untoward, but he was like, I still want to do this anyways. And the last one was just that, obviously it was a little trite, but neither of us was strong enough. There might not be anyone in Middle Earth who is talking about standing up to Sauron, but perhaps the elves need only remember that it is not strength that overcomes darkness, but light. Armies may rise, hearts may fall, yet still light endures, and it is mightier than strength. For in its presence, all darkness must flee. Again, I think that was one of those sort of all-time banger speeches that they wanted to make sure that Charles Edwards had something to go out on, although he did get some good zingers in the last episode too. But I think this was definitely the Celebrimbor awakening from Sauron's magics was definitely a moment for Charles Edwards to shine.
There was a fact check too, because last episode you mentioned about the how Sauron shows up with the mithril, right?
Mm-hmm.
And which he was denied by the dwarves. So how did he get this mithril? And then it turns out that he tricked Celebrimbor into using his blood instead of mithril.
Yeah.
In the rings. Yeah.
That was a really good twist, eh?
Mm-hmm. My quote came from we just putting a lot of stock into the Celebrimbor Sauron interactions. This one was Celebrimbor and Sauron. You are he, are you not? And the response, I have many names, which I feel like I'm definitely going to use in real life. Like, I have many names.
You said that a few times.
Some call me Dev with the hair.
Exactly.
Yeah. My big question at the end of this one, just because we get this very sad moment at the end of the episode where it looks like the elves are absolutely screwed. The orcs are coming in. They've knocked a hole in the wall. It's looking really bad for our heroes. And we just keep hearing Elrond say, Durin will come. Durin will come. So my question was, is Durin coming? Like, what's going on here? And turns out no is the answer. But we'll talk about that as we move over to episode 8. So my elevator pitch for this one was darkness reigns in Middle Earth, but light and hope still remain.
This is what? Is that your elevator pitch for episode Shadow 8. And Flame?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mine is, I got to find it. I wrote it down. These aren't the Western O's you're looking for. Move along.
I went with Duel of the Dates because there's sort of multiple things that happen here. There's Isildur trying to take some other dude's soon-to-be wife. They got a cornerstone. They're like, I really sure hope our relationship lasts as long as this house. And I'm like, oh, boy, buddy. You don't want to jinx things that way. And, of course, the real interesting romance angle that's played between Galadriel and Sauron. And they're intertwined. Yeah. And I did ask Microsoft Copilot in this case, I'm like, what's a synonym for fate that rhymes with fate? And it said date. I'm like, yeah, that actually worked pretty good. So Duel of the Fates, Duel of the Dates.
Yeah.
That's how the sausage is made.
Yeah. Or rings in some cases.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, this one obviously concludes that huge battle, but also is a triptych, right? It's just, let's check in with everybody. So, we have to go see what's going on with the Harfoots and with the Stranger. And we have to go in and we have to check in what's happening on Numenor. And we have to go and check in what's happening in Khazad-dûm. And we just are kind of like place to place to place. And every single character that we care about kind of gets at least a little bit of time, which is a little...
It's a finale. They got it. They have to touch in on everybody. It's a finale, right?
And I completely understand why you do that, especially because you did spend so much time on one location. But coming off of that episode that was so focused, it couldn't help but make this one feel disjointed. And again, it's a legitimate and yet unavoidable knock. Like, it couldn't help but feel a little all over the place, just because they were trying to sort of, they couldn't not go back and circle back to what's happening with all these other characters. But in the end, we probably spent a little too much time in Khazad-dûm. The first scene was pretty good. Did we need to circle back again and later on and talk about like dwarven politics and the rights of succession? Like, don't really care at this point. Tell me that in episode 1 next year or 2 years from now. The Stranger stuff, again, good that they kind of wrapped up that whole, Tom Bombadil thing. And
Grand
obviously,
Elf, yes, with Grand Elf.
With
yes.
Grand Elf, yes. So we did get, some conclusionary things there. But it to me, it did feel a little all over the place.
Yeah, and the cane chooses the wizard.
Yes, the walking stick chooses the wizard.
Yes.
I don't know. I can't say that I found the whole like conclusion to the Harfoot's storyline very satisfying. It's like, well, this evil wizard showed up, dropped a bunch of rocks on them, and they had to leave. And the stranger who suddenly has a name is like, peace out. I'm going to go hang out over with this other guy with the stick, and you guys go do your own thing. That was a little weird, especially after he made that choice, right? Like, when Grand Elf goes and goes to them as opposed to going and looking for the stick, it was the choice between power and friendship, and he chooses friendship. But then he's like, well, that didn't work out well for you guys, so you guys can do your own thing. I'm gonna go take this stick and go back to the other guy now. Like, it just felt a little bit weird, but nice that we finally got that bow wrapped on. I think if they'd gone longer than 2 years having to call this guy the Stranger, it would have been really tedious. So I'm glad that they finally just stuck a fork in that and said, oh yeah, Gandalf, you're Gandalf. Here we are, ta-da, Gandalf.
I did like what the evil
the Dark Wizard.
Evil Dark Wizard says when he says to, I think one of the Harfoots, he gives them a choice, and they say, I think I'll go with the other people. He goes, oh, you want to go with the person who had the knife against your throat a minute ago?
Yeah. Yeah. And then it was getting a little like things in Numenor. We left them 2 episodes ago, and they were like, "All hail Queen Miriel! She survived the monster in the water." And then this one, they come back. They're like, "Yeah, regarding that, she's still not the queen again. And not only that, but we're gonna start rounding up people and putting them into prison for being Sauron's allies just because they believe in like elves." That was really weird. That was a weird. That whole, I can't say the Numenor stuff is my favorite part of it anyways, although it still tops the stuff in Pelargir, which we'll get to in a second. But it did feel a little bit, just contrived. Like, all of a sudden, Iarion is like, oh, I have to protect my dad. I'm like, remember like 2 episodes ago when you were like trying to screw over your dad? And then we cut to Pelargir, where we're back with Isildur and Theo, at which point I was like, maybe I should go get a drink or something. Like, this is
your favorite character, Theo, right?
Theo is the worst, by far the worst. And I'm like, if we never see Theo again, I'm good.
I was wondering, like, is he part of the lore that like he cannot be removed? How did they not just take him out? Like,
I can't help but wonder if his fate is to, I don't know, become one of the Nazgul or something, like something that is going to be like,
he's the hugger.
Yeah, that was not. I could have gone longer without that, but Yeah, and then we get the return of Kemen. Kemen's like, "Oh, you're still alive. Oh, I guess I'll take you home. By the way, your dad's a traitor." And
yeah, why is he taking him home if his dad's a traitor?
I assume to leverage for power. I guess the idea is they know that Elendil is sort of against them, and he probably thinks, well, if I bring his kid back, that'll give us some leverage over him because we can threaten to kill this other kid of his too. But, I mean, it's pretty plain that Isildur's like, I hate this guy, so I don't know. And he's like, can we load up my horse? He's like, sure. Can we load up my girlfriend? No.
Oh, they took the horse, but not the girlfriend.
Yeah.
Interesting. I thought he was going to say, fine, I'll just get on the horse and take the long way home.
Yeah.
Because he got there somehow, right?
Yeah.
But wasn't there a lot of walking in The Lord of the Rings, if I remember correctly?
Was there? There certainly was. Hey, how about next time we call the Golden Eagles first? How about first we call them? You just fly us right over top of the corona of the volcano. Poof. Anyways.
Something to drop off. Yeah, exactly.
The trip to Numenor did give us one of the good Easter eggs, which was Elendil happened to be gifted a new sword, which, having had his sword taken away when he lost his station, he was in need of a sword. And hey, I just happen to have this one lying around. It's called Narsil. You maybe could have heard of that one if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings. Infamously, the famous sword that cut off Sauron's hand and handed him his big defeat, and later was reforged and given to Aragorn. Little thing. So that was pretty cool moment. I mean, felt very fan servicey Easter eggy, but what are you going to do? And then I guess the best of the episode was still the conclusion of the fight outside Eregion and inside Eregion, because we did get the conclusion of the Sauron and Celebrimbor saga, where gruesome, where he's like firing arrows into his body,
like Saint Sebastian, exactly. Yeah.
But deliberately to wound him, deliberately to torture him, so that he can try and get the location of the Nine. And then obviously Celebrimbor sort of taunts him into finally murdering him, because that's what he wants. He knows that he's done, and he knows he deserves to die after feeling so ashamed of having created these toxic rings for this monster. So that was, again, nice send off for Charles Edwards. Like, he just he went out like a champ, so good for him. And and then of course we get the final push as the dwarves show up, and they end up sort of sparking the rescue, where the king and Arondir and Elrond can then fight back. And then of course we end up with our girl Galadriel gets caught again. She's not very good at this, and she ends up in this huge sword fight against Sauron, which for me, that was my pew pew pew. I thought the as you called it, Jaime, the sort of the flirting / hate / duel was quite a thing, because she was like
duel of the dates. Yeah,
the moment where she comes around the one cairn, and he's turned into Halbrand again, and she sort of stops, and that she's like, yeah, I was kind of into that guy. So it's
right.
It was kind of interesting. And then eventually, of course, he turns into her, which is even more twisted. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And then we also, I sort of skipped over, but Adar kind of overplays his hand of, we got a lot of foreshadowing over the past few episodes that Glug, his sort of number one orc, was not happy with his management style, but to then find out that Glug had fully drank the Sauron Kool-Aid, and they did to him what happened in the book ending, right? The first episode was the stabbing, the sort of brutal stabbing of Sauron, which he of course lives through. I don't think Adar lived through that, because
right, I was going to ask.
He looked pretty darn stabbed to death. I did think it was pretty funny though that they're on him, they stab him, and they're stabbing him, they're stabbing him and stabbing him, and he's still like, I have one last thing to say. Like, no, dude, no. After the 20th or 30th stab, you don't have much to say anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're probably thinking about the 19th stab.
Yeah, but I'm again. I think that one's another one where I'm like, I feel like that character was kind of played out. I'm okay with that not being a thing anymore.
Adar.
It just.
Okay.
oh, Adar, you're our hero. We love you, but we're also suspicious of you. Like it felt like it kind of had played out over 2 seasons. I didn't need to see any more of that.
Right. Maybe that's why the guy left the series. He probably saw the end of it.
Yeah, really.
I saw the plot line for it.
Yeah.
We can't forget the Rey Skywalker balancing boulder trick that Grand Elf does. We forgot to mention that, right? So there's a lot of Jedi tricks in this episode.
Yeah, who needs a walking stick if you could just like wave your hands and make stuff go flying?
Exactly. And people don't seem to die. Like, Galadriel fell like off a cliff and survived somehow.
Yeah, right? I mean, they established along the way in the books.
I mean, she can't die because we know the whole prequel problem.
Well,
right?
And I'm definitely going to be circling back to that in a second, but that is the thing, is they establish in the books at one point that the elves are kind of like birds. They have very, very light bones. That's why they're able to like jump and do all those things. So they're not quite like a human being where they land like a sack of bricks. So, a little bit, but I mean, she fell a long way. So whatever. And in fairness, she's pretty bad shape by the time they find her. Not only has she been like stabbed repeatedly by Morgoth's crown, but then thrown off a cliff or jumped off a cliff, so she's in pretty bad shape. But okay, so circling back, pew pew pew, did you guys have anything other than the Galadriel Sauron duel of the dates?
Well, I did mark down the Balrog versus King Durin early on in the episode.
It was a very epic moment for sure.
Yeah, I wrote down that it is Durin versus the Balrog in either, you can, your choice. It's either a heavy metal album cover art.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's like a Boris Vallejo painting, if you're into that sort of cool fantasy art stuff.
I could easily see that on the side of a 1970s van. Yeah, that was pretty good. I had the Balrog as an Easter egg just because we'd seen the hints that the Balrog was coming. We saw the little Balrog teasers sort of drip through the season, but yeah. Yeah, the 3 Easter eggs that I had were the Balrog, obviously Narsil we talked about, and the third one is the end of the episode where the elves finally get out of there and they take the last survivors of Eregion. We didn't talk about the scene where, the orcs for some reason go out of their way to gather up all the scrolls and manuscripts and histories and put them in a big pile to burn them. Seemed like a little bit of something that an orc probably wouldn't do when they were sacking a town, but who knows? Maybe they were told to.
Why wouldn't they just burn the library or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But, obviously you see that moment and knowing what the future is, obviously with Elrond founding Rivendell. Rivendell is a place that is protected. It is also a place for, where to protect the histories of the elves and everything. So, there was both that moment where he's like, outraged about that foreshadowed Rivendell, but then later on when they show up, they are literally standing where Rivendell is going to be built. So that was definitely a pretty big Easter egg, and you didn't have to look very far when they pull back and they show the waterfall. You're like, well, I wonder where they are. Yeah. Any other Easter eggs catch your eyes?
Mine was the Dark Wizard saying there are we're 5 of us.
Yeah.
And so we know Saruman the White, Gandalf the Grey, Radagast the Brown, and then the 2 blue wizards.
2 blues, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are we supposed to infer from that he is one of the blues?
I thought that, but then people are saying maybe, especially because of his beard coloration, that maybe he is Saruman, and since he at least ostensibly reveals himself to not be straight up evil, but maybe a little bit more, borderline. Maybe, Saruman was still kind of jerkish, even when he was pretending to be completely on the side of the light. He was more anti-hero than hero, even at his best.
Yeah, it's plausible for sure.
Yeah, I'm unclear. I was thinking blue for a while, maybe they're explaining what happened here, but now I don't know.
Yeah.
The other Easter egg was the one I mentioned early at the beginning of this section was it Celebrimbor who called Sauron the Lord of the Rings?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta love shows where they use the title of the show. So it's a moment.
Well, I mean, like I said, it's how long has it been since I've started reading these books? And I may have thought of him as the Lord of the Rings back in the day, but it's been there's been hours. Do you know, one comment I was thinking as I'm watching this show today, thank God we didn't have to hear that little wisp of theme music from the Lord of the Rings that we had to sit through 3 2.5 hour long movies for. You know, that da-na, da-na-na-na-na-na. Thank God.
Yeah. For quotes, again, good ones. I thought the episode started strong with Disa. It's the ring. It has him mind and soul. I thought that was very dramatic. Elendil, when he's talking to the Queen Miriel, says, "What cowardice have I ever shown to make you think I would even consider making safe my own skin at the peril of yours?" Very eloquent. And then Celebrimbor, man, bringing us home with his last words. "Hear me, shadow of Morgoth. Hear the dying words of Celebrimbor. The rings of power will destroy you, and in the end I foresee one alone shall prove your utter ruin." Again, obviously heavy foreshadowing, but also way to go out like a champ, Celebrimbor. Way to just, you'd be like, yeah, come on, stab me. Let's get this over with. I loved it. And the last one I had was Sauron talking about Galadriel, saying, "I would have placed a crown upon your head. I would never have rested until all Middle-earth had been brought to its knees to worship the light of its queen." That's some heavily romantic stuff for a monster.
Mm-hmm. That's why Duel of the Dates is what I went with as my cheeky title for this one. I was like, like, this is his enemy, but he kind of can't let it go either, right?
And nor can she. Like, you can see it. And Morfydd Clark is playing it really well, too. Like, both of them, as good as we just talked about Edwards and Vickers. Vickers and Clark are also, like, crackling with chemistry.
Yep. And there were some good quotes I didn't write down, but I think it was the Queen talking to the guy who you just quoted.
Elendil, yeah.
Elendil. I think she had a couple of zingers in there, too.
Yep. No, there's... the writing on the show is very crisp. Okay, for my big question, and I thought about bringing this up at 7, but I'll wrap it all up in one big bow here, which is, how did Arondir not die? So at the end of episode 7, there's only a handful of elves left, including our sort of 3 established, well-known characters: the King, Gil-galad, Elrond, and Arondir. And Arondir makes a run at trying to take out Adar, because he's furious with Adar because Adar's people had taken out his girlfriend. And so he takes a run at him. The orcs stop him, and then Adar runs him through, like stabs him dead on in the gut. And when we leave that episode, Arondir's not dead. We see him moving on the ground, but he got stabbed like full on by Adar. When we meet him up in this episode, there are no ill effects. It's not like he's like, I'll be, I'm bandaged up or I'm bleeding. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing. And
I guess they forgot.
I was like,
clearly.
That seems like a pretty glaring issue in this one. Like
art direction, yeah.
He was, again, we don't see how far the blade goes, but we see Adar wind up and just shove a blade into him last week. I get that the elves are good healers, but come on. That one kind of bothered me. I was like, because the scene where they're burning all the stuff and then the dwarves show up and he's just like right back in the battle. And he doesn't, if you look at the front of his armor, couldn't even see that he had a scratch on him. I was like, hey, that was not a good one. Any other big questions and or thoughts on now we finished season 2? They say they're doing 5 seasons. That is the intention of this. Even in spite of what looks like to be a rather exorbitant cost, although not like Mr. Bezos can't afford it, but they say they're doing 3 more seasons. We've gotten 1 season focused on creating the elven rings and bringing that and sort of establishing that. Here now we're going to have this season where it's about the forging of the rest of the rings. Obviously now Sauron has the human rings, the rings for men. So next season will probably be him in Numenor, messing stuff up.
Did he get those from Galadriel?
He did.
Somehow?
He did.
Okay.
He grabbed them from her before she falls. Yeah.
Because she kind of had them tucked in a personal place, right?
She did, but then if you see in that one scene where she's there, her top is open.
Open? Oh, okay.
And he's holding the bag.
Right.
Literally. I thought overall this was a good season. It was a little inconsistent. I don't think it was any different than the first season, though. I don't think it wasn't enough to make me dislike anything. It was just at times it was a little slow. At times it was a little all over the place. But I think the sharpness of the writing and the quality of the performances and the incredibly high production value, that Balrog looked no different to me than Peter Jackson's movies. Now, admittedly, Peter Jackson's movies were now legitimately 20 years ago, but the quality of set production of all the different pieces in the show is really sky high. So kudos to them for that. I enjoyed the season. I will go back at some point and rewatch it, and I certainly am looking forward to seeing more of it in the future. I don't think anything really dissuaded me from enjoying it. And in an ideal world, we've seen the last of Adar, we've seen the last of Celebrimbor, and please God, let us say we've seen the last of Theo, but I'm not sure that's going to come to pass.
Right. Well, he left him in that fishing town. He's going to be lumberjack now, right?
Yeah, great. More power to him.
Yeah.
I want to propose again. I'm sticking on this weird kick, but I want you to name an MVP of this season for a character and convince me that it's not Barrack the horse. This is the only character. This is the only character who did major good positive moves with literally no downsides. He is not responsible, or he or she. I guess it sounds like a he's name.
Sounds like Barrack the boy. Yeah.
This horse has not allowed Sauron to come back, didn't give him rings, didn't cause a throne to get overthrown or anything like that.
Or boulders to be dropped on a village. Yeah, no, fair.
Yeah.
It's you're making a very compelling case. I think you might actually be able to ride that one off into the sunset, Jaime.
This horse is going to end up going over to heaven, right?
Yeah.
Now, the bad part of that is that it seems like they're headed back to Numenor, and we've seen in Miriel's visions that the end of Numenor comes with like crashing waves that kill lots of people. Maybe. I mean, we know Isildur doesn't die. And we talked about the prequel problem. The problem with this continuing to be a prequel is at no point did I ever think, oh my God, Galadriel's going to die, because she doesn't. Nor Elrond, nor, obviously Sauron, nor so many of these characters. Isildur, we know, doesn't. Elendil doesn't, because we know when he dies. It is continually going to be the prequel problem. The good thing is when they can introduce new characters that sort of throw them into the mix, like the Harfoots and, Theo, you can introduce other characters and then put their lives at risk. Again, Celebrimbor was essentially brought on board to be a disposable character in its own way. But it does lower the stakes. It's an arguable consequence of doing a prequel is that it does lower the stakes. Great fight scene between Sauron and Galadriel. We knew it was going to end in some kind of stalemate because we know both of them walk off to live to fight another day. So, yeah. And apparently Arondir can't be killed. He's like some kind of cyborg Terminator elf who could be stabbed in the chest and keep going.
Let's move on because we got a lot to cover still.
Yes, indeed.
Shop Macy's VIP sale going on now. Use your coupon or Macy's card and take an extra 30% off the latest fall trends from designers that rarely go on sale. And save 15% off skincare, makeup, fragrances, and more. Plus, shop fall specials for even more great deals on top brands at Macy's. Savings off regular and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Let's do some Agatha all along. Season 1. Episode 3, Through Many Miles of Tricks and Trials. My elevator pitch. The Witch's Road is full of twists, turns, terrors, and some pretty Tony Togs. So they go to this bougie house, right?
Right.
This is the first trial, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's where I went with the very basic, Prime Video, Netflix kind of description of the Coven's first test goes worse than they expect.
Yeah, yeah, definitely that.
Yeah.
I did have an alternate one, which I thought might be in poor taste, but I'm going to throw it out there, which is, and now we know what the trade-in value is for a firstborn son. You get one book of The Damned. Unfortunately, I love #1 fan too much. I won't trade him in for a book. Maybe an Action Comics one. We'll talk. So, yeah, first trial. This was the water trial.
Okay. Okay.
So, and we know that because the episode 4 is a fire trial, so it seems like they all have kind of a elements of the earth kind of vibe to them. The Coven ends up basically going to this first trial inside this, what do they call it? It's sort of the Big Little Lies house from that whole sort of Reese Witherspooniverse. And they have to drink the poisoned wine, and then they have to figure out how to cure the wine, cure themselves from the poisoned wine. They all have pretty messed up visions during that moment, so we get a little insight into each of them. We sort of get how Jen lost her powers, some of the stuff between Alice and her mom. We get sort of the nightmares, and of course we get Agatha's nightmare, which is related to her kid again, so that's it's pretty messed up. And yeah, it was, I will say, I like the show. It's very funny, and it's also it's got some sort of suspenseful moments. Again, the thing I like about it is, yes, they're using established Marvel characters, but they've established with the MCU stuff that if they're bringing in like 6th tier Marvel characters, they do not care and will kill them. So there is a genuine element that anybody could be killed in this. I don't think Agatha, I don't think Teen, but I think the other witches are all potential, heads on the block, right? So that adds a little element of suspense to these things that is a little more realistic.
Yeah, because you kind of spoiled it there by, I suppose, that Deborah Jo Rump's character doesn't survive the episode.
Yeah. I mean, it's, so that was actually my big question was, is Mrs. Hart dead, or is she just pining for the fjords?
Well, they do ask that in the next episode. Yeah. They asked that in the next episode too.
Yeah. And, so the question is, if you die on the road, do you die? Or if you die on the road, do you go back to, like, is that her physical body? I don't know. Hard to say. It seemed a little cruel to bring her along and have her die on the first trip, but then I also thought it was pretty funny because she had like multiple glasses of the wine, and they were like, let's wait to the last second and forget to give that lady her antidote, let alone 2 doses of the antidote. I don't know. It seemed a little bit not so good, but yeah, I don't know. This I thought this was a really strong episode. It was funny, it was edgy. We got a little bit of plot exposition and sort of understanding of the characters, and we got a real consequence where they didn't work together, they didn't get their stuff sorted out, and we lost a character. So I think that was sort of a nice galvanizing, like, these are the stakes, they're real, people will die, and also these trials are going to be pretty brutal on these people, which is pretty good.
Did you have a pew pew pew?
Pew 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 for this one. What did I have for my pew pew pew? Let's see. Pew 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 was the hallucinations. I think it just across the board. I think all of them were pretty messed up. I thought Jen's, where she's, she got tricked, and in episode 4 we find out sort of what the circumstances were. But that sort of creepy guy tricking her and then taking her powers, that was pretty awful. And but I mean, all of them, like Lilia's vision of herself as a little girl, and all of that was like really in its way pew pew pewy. Although if you want to get even more pew pew pewy in a more basic way, I guess it would be Sharon, Mrs. Hart, fighting to get her purse back from a swamp that wanted to eat her. But that was pretty good.
Right. Yeah.
How about you guys?
I did not expect the waterworks, the practical effects waterworks, to be my pew pew pew. It's kind of it doesn't pew pew pew, does it? It normally stops the pew pew pews.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was pretty well done. How so this series, this episode kind of gave me the hint, but it really feels like a 1980s movie, like a Goonies, not really horror, kind of more thriller, adventure kind of thing.
Yeah, like a spooky adventure.
And the water slide they went through was very Goonies-esque, so I just really dug that.
Yeah. Yeah. I did like the preceding moment on that too, where Lilia won't go into the oven. She's like, I had a friend once who had a lovely house, and does the whole Hansel and Gretel joke. That was one of my Easter eggs, was obviously, she had a lovely, I never go in an oven that way. Biggest Easter egg, I think, of the episode was, I'm sure you guys had the same one, but Mephisto. We finally got an actual somebody uttering the word Mephisto in the Marvel Universe. We had talked about that during WandaVision, that there was all these sort of speculations on, Reddit and places like that. People were like, oh, I wonder if this is going to be tied into the big bad, because in the comic books, Mephisto and Scarlet Witch are very connected to one another. And there was all the speculation, and in the end, nothing. And so the fact that they actually name dropped Mephisto in this is pretty interesting, because that could be trolling. It could be the writers being like, ha ha ha, we'll put Mephisto's name in here and you guys will, bite hook, line, and sinker. Or it could be foreshadowing that we might actually finally get a real Mephisto in the Marvel Universe. Mephisto, of course, being the Marvel Universe's version of the devil. Based on obviously the Mephistopheles character. But yeah, it's interesting to hear that finally come to light and actually be out there as a thing, especially the way they use it to be like, oh, this is what happened to Jen says this is what happened to Agatha's son. She traded her son for the Book of the Damned and traded to Mephisto at that. So yeah. Any other Easter eggy stuff for you guys?
Not so much, no.
No, they're Easter eggs. I had the couple of quotes, both about Mrs. Hart, for lack of a better.
She had some great ones.
Who's Sharon?
Yeah.
She's so little. Why is she so heavy? All these callous things about her character being dead.
Yeah, I had a couple of those that were from her that I thought were really funny, where she says, I'm not saying I want to join the club or anything, but I would drink the blood of a virgin if it would smooth out some of these wrinkles. I thought Jen's line at the beginning of the episode, she's talking, Sharon says something and she says, oh, helpful interjection, random woman with no obvious magical qualities. I'm like, oh man, that's nasty. I thought that was really good. Yeah, and then my big question for this one was just, is Mrs. Hart really dead, or is she just pining for the fjords? Because, this is Marvel and it is a comic book based thing, which means characters can come back to life or not necessarily be mostly dead, but not all dead. But she looked pretty dead when we move on to episode 4. She seemed pretty dead.
Yeah. Well, they were burying her too, or
yeah,
starting to bury her and then walking away. I don't know.
No, I think they were continuing to bury her there. But yeah. Any other big questions?
Not out of this one, no.
3 episodes in, still guessing on who Teen might be. They do drop some hints in here as to who they think Teen might be.
Well, they also have the sigil on his face, so he can't say what his name is.
They all discovered the sigil now. Because before we knew that Agatha knew, but the rest of them didn't know. Now they all know that he has a sigil. But there's definitely some foreshadowing of what comes out in episode 4 as far as who people think that Teen might be.
Yeah, but then, the Green Witch reveals it isn't who it is, who she thinks it is. Yeah.
Shall we move on to episode 4?
Yes, please.
Episode 4, If I Can't Reach You, Let My Song Teach You. Elevator pitch. The Coven second trial on the road is hotter than a witch covered in nipples.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Hey, if they're going to put it out there.
Yeah, I put the only cure for a family curse is a nice jam session.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very Partridge Family.
So was that the witch's song that the road song again they were singing?
It's the same one, but it's a different version. It's the version that Alice's mom Lorna sort of made into a rock ballad.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah.
And I had that as my pew 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 too. I thought that the song, the way they had to sort of work through the song, especially as Teen is like suffering through it, I thought was really sort of about as close as we came to actual pew 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 in this episode.
Yeah, wasn't there fire behind the piano or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole place started like going up as they were doing their thing, right?
Yeah.
And they had that sort of 70s LA vibe, whatever.
Yeah, it was somewhere between like Partridge Family and like Party at Phil Spector's place.
Yeah.
But unlike Phil Spector's parties, everybody lived, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
So this one, in a completely foreseeable and foreshadowed twist, they bury dead Sharon and then are like, well, we're going to need a Green Witch. Let's summon one. And shocker of shockers, who did they happen to summon? Who's the Green Witch? It's Rio. You knew we weren't going to go very long before we got Aubrey Plaza back in the mix. And she was, again, a freaking delight in this episode. She's so much like, they all seem like they're having a good time, but she seems like she's having a great time. This might be.
I like it when they ask her if she's the Green Witch and she says, or if she's a Green Witch, she says, I'm like the Green Witch.
The Green Witch, yeah. And then of course we again following the elements theme. This is the fire trial, so there's this sort of whole theme of burning at first. Lilia starts burning, and then they draw the circle around her, and then Jen starts burning. Are you going to live in that circle? Yes. And then sort of they have to play the song to expand the protection and ward off the curse. So we're kind of checking boxes as we go here. We have Jen obviously rising to the occasion in the first trial. We get a nice moment for Alice in this one where she also is rising to the occasion and facing her demons, in this case literally. And we learn a little bit more along the way here where the sigil, we learn what the sigil is, how it's created. It's sigils are destroyed, not lifted, and they're lifted when they're no longer needed. And they affect everybody, including the people who cast it, which is kind of interesting take on that. And then we talked a little bit about just, the identity of Teen, which is sort of in this lingering mystery. It sort of comes to a head in this episode where we saw it in the previous episode when Teen is about to take a drink of the wine, and Agatha grabs the glass away from Teen and chugs it. And it's a very not Agatha thing to do, but if you sort of put the frame of this episode on it of she might have had an inkling that he could have been her son Nicky, then that makes sense that she would be trying to protect him that way, right? And then Rio says no.
That was my big question, kind of carried over from the other episode of like, Agatha is so self-centered and callous. Why does she care so much about Teen? Is this the son or a child?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's obviously a relationship between what's Aubrey Plaza's character's name?
Rio
and Agatha, right? Because they have their little quiet moment together.
Yeah, like clearly there's again a connection there that is love and hate. It's very much what we talked about with the Sauron and Galadriel stuff. There's both love and hate in their relationship, and it just kind of depends which way the wind is blowing at that moment. Easter eggs. I only caught the one. So at one point, when they're talking about the Daughters of Liberty, they were tricked by the Daughters of Liberty. The Daughters of Liberty is a team from the comic books. It's a little obscure. It's from a more recent run of Captain America, the Daughters of Liberty. It's it's a bunch of weird characters. So it's like Peggy Carter is part of them. Spider Woman is part of them. Harriet Tubman is part of them. I wish I could take the time to explain it, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna put the link in to our show notes if you feel like you need to have a look. Maybe Tim will add that to our show notes because it's a little much to get into. But it is tied into Agatha's backstory, and there is some there. It doesn't really tell you anything more about knowing that doesn't change the foundation of what's going on. There really is just kind of an Easter egg moment. I don't think that's going to come back around or anything. Yeah. Best quotes. This one had some bangers. Agatha says, "Mrs. Hart was a bad draft pick, okay?"
Yeah, I had that one too.
When they're summoning the new witch, may she be smart and not annoying and also not super political. Lilia has been having these moments. She had one in the third episode. She had another one in the fourth episode where she seems to disassociate and sounds like someone else is speaking through her.
Yeah. Right.
And in this one, she says, "Which is it? Am I wispy or am I kooky?" I thought that was an interesting line, especially just because I'm not sure what we're dealing with there. From Rio got two of the best lines. "I'm feeling impatient. I'm feeling like I want to do some damage." Which, pretty good. But the best one of the episode by far was the reference to what I referenced in my elevator pitch, which is, "You guys don't have extra nipples? I'm covered in nipples. You want to see?" Any other quotes jump out at you guys?
No, I had the draft pick one. That was the one that I went with.
Oh, so good. So good. Big question. So,
well, except that Rio says to Agatha as she's walking away, he's not the one, or he's not
your son. Yeah, the boy isn't yours, I think is what she says. I think there's two questions that sort of come out of this episode, big questions. One is, now that Rio says he's not your son, we have to ask how she knows that. So hopefully we'll get that in the next episode. How is she so sure that that is the case? And I still am quite confident in my initial pick of who Teen is, but we've got a few more episodes for things to play out, so we'll see. That felt very much like a red herring kind of thing. I think they kind of wanted people to go down that path of, well, maybe this is hers. So to have that balloon popped adds to the mystery, which is fun. And then again, following on the elements theme, so we've gotten water, we've gotten fire, so we've got 2 more trials. In theory, we're down now 4 episodes, and we'll have an air and an earth trial in the next couple of episodes, which still only takes us to 6 out of 9 episodes. So it'll be interesting to see how this continues to play out. It sounds like it might go somewhere else on the Witch's Road unless we are overreaching on the elements, but they make a reference to it in this episode. They say, well, this must be the fire trial, so yes, that's the case. But I am digging this series. I like that they seem like they're having a really good time. I like the chemistry between the characters. Catherine Hahn's a freaking delight. Aubrey Plaza's a freaking delight, and yeah, I look forward to it every week now. Did the demonic voices in the backward playing record count as an Easter egg, or what would you call that one? I didn't know what to do with that. Yeah, but I felt like it was a definite, especially because of the era that they're meant to be in, where there was like the big cultural concern about they're getting to our kids with this. Yeah, I wonder if there's stuff in there that you can parse. I wonder if there's things in there that you can. If you played that backwards, I wonder if you get something out of it. I like it when they have some dense Easter eggs. When we talk about the penguin in a minute, there was a fantastic Easter egg in the first episode of the Penguin that is a very you gotta want it. So I like when they kind of put that stuff out there. I wonder if it's something ridiculous like Aubrey Plaza and Catherine Hahn, saying their names over and over again, or just something really funny that you would get for playing that. Or nobody's played it backwards yet, or I have not seen it, but I do tend to troll some of the blogosphere just to sort of see if people are that invested, and believe me, they are. So let's see. Want to talk some Penguin? Let's do that. We got our first 2 episodes of HBO's The Penguin series, spun out of The Batman. Apparently everybody needs a "the" in the Matt Reeves take on the Gotham City. We got The Penguin and The Batman. Episodes 1 and 2 of The Penguin, we basically pick up right after we left the events of The Batman. My elevator pitch for the first one was the Penguin's got his eye on Gotham's mob, and he better be careful because somebody else has already got their eye on the prize. Jaime, what did you have? Yeah, I think wrapping these up in the elevator pitches, it's like what happens when all of the stuff happens in the Batman and the city is still reeling. Who's going to pick up the pieces when the king, Falcone, is gone? Penguin, of course, believes that he can change his lot in life. Yep. This was, as you say, it was pretty much just, a few days later, here we are, we're picking it up. We sort of start off with a bang, which is the heir apparent to this Falcone crime family, runs into the Penguin. It seems like they're kind of gonna make a peace, and then the Penguin murders the guy. So the whole first episode is about just sort of him dealing with the fallout of killing this guy, and then having to dispose of the body, come up with an alibi. He ends up, wrapping this poor kid, Victor, into this whole ability to, get rid of it. And then, we slowly sort of get introduced to all the players. There's, Falcone's brothers who are coming in because they want to run the mob. We meet Falcone's daughter, Sophia, who apparently had this dark background. And then, we get sort of all these players and sort of angling to see who's going to be the person who can be the godfather or the kingpin of Gotham. And so it plays out pretty well. I'm still blown away by this. I'm still blown away that this is Colin Farrell. I'm still blown away that he's putting it on. Like, it's so transformative. It's really, really impressive stuff. It was impressive in the movie, but he's not the star of the movie. He's just kind of a part of the movie. To see a whole couple episodes with him just immersed in that role, it really just kind of blows me away. It really is. I never think about that being Colin Farrell, except for the fact that I know it's Colin Farrell.
Yeah, it's very hard. You never really hear, like, I've been listening for him to say something that's identifiable. Other than his eyes, it's really hard to see him at all.
But they do such a good job with the prosthetics and the makeup and the hair and the jowls and the limp. Like, it really just, I cannot see Colin Farrell in there, and it's a testament to the work and to the performance. But it's really, really cool. Pew pew pew. I thought the attack when they try and get him out of the car and he's fighting off the guy inside the car, I thought that was pretty good. I like that it's kind of dirty fighting. It's not like, he's not a super villain. He's not, like this may be a DC property, but this feels very grounded and very dirty and very ugly. The fact that he just, shoots people, or that he's not above chopping people's parts off, or same thing with the car attack. It just felt dirty. Like this guy would bite somebody or scratch somebody or kick somebody in the groin to get what he needed to do. Right. I like that. It definitely feels edgier and more realistic.
I think along those lines, the thing I appreciate is the fact that you see some depth to Oswald Cobb, where, in his gangster life, he has to be sort of lower and subservient, even though he's trying to be bigger. In his relationship with, oh my God, I forgot the teen's name. What's the teen's name? Victor, thank you. With Victor, if you get past the initial, like, oh, I'm using this guy, I'm going to kill him, like, he's becoming like a mentor, and he treats him like he's like a surrogate son or child or mentee of some sort. And he also has this weird relationship with his mother, who's got severe dementia problems, where he has to be subservient but parental, where he's clearly a loser in her eyes at this point. Kind of hard to tell if it's always been that way or if the dementia is causing it to occur. So he has to sort of code switch in these various different things. So you don't just see the gangster killing people. You don't just see the guy dealing with family life. You see a bunch of different aspects of his life.
You're right. It's a really excellent way to highlight the kind of person that Oz is in the first episode. You really get a sense of this man is a chameleon. He can play a lot of different angles. He's smart. He's really capable. He knows when he has to be aggressive. He knows when he has to be, put on an air of being meek. Like he's good at this. The Easter egg that I mentioned earlier was where there's a scene where they're on the subway and somebody in a mask, sort of anarchist style, is walking through saying, get the truth about Gotham here. And he's holding up a QR code and he's, asking people on the subway to scan it. There is an actual QR code. You actually, if you pause it, you can scan that code.
Yeah, I wondered about that.
And it does take you to a site called gothamstrueface.com. And there are articles in there about the Falcones, and there's all this stuff about just sort of the corruption and crime in Gotham City. I tried to pause the episode repeatedly to get it in the right spot, and I couldn't. And I was like, you know what? I'm probably wasting my time. Someone must have done this. As sure as I searched it, somebody had, and the links were there. So you can just go to gothamstrueface.com and look it up. But I do love that kind of deep cut Easter egg where if you put in the effort, you're rewarded for it, because it does give you a little bit of extra content. Again, it's not going to change your life, but it's definitely a fun thing when you can play along at home. So I did like that. Any Easter eggy stuff for you, Jaime?
No, I thought Salvatore was going to be an Easter egg. I'm like, oh, he's just a straight up character in the series. So
yeah, Clancy Brown, the classic from Highlander himself. Good quotes. I had, I've been where you are and you heard my ma. And this is one of those moments where you got to ask yourself, what kind of life do I want? You want to spend your life small, stealing rims, barely getting by? Or do you want more for yourself? You saw how the Falcones live. Can you imagine living like that? Huh? In a mansion, maids and butlers and stuff. And they don't know what they got, because they always had it. They never been hungry. They were born full, not us. The world wasn't built for guys like us. And that's what we got to do We got to decide what's ours, because no one's going to give it to us, not without a fight. Again, good writing, great performance.
Yeah, my two quotes tend to be kind of different for both for Colin Farrell's Penguin character. In the second episode, when he is coming out of the bigwig meeting and trying to influence Sophia, he's like, what are we running a marathon? Because like he's got the messed up leg. Just this casual thing. Like you don't even have to add it in there, but add some flavor. Like this dude, he can't keep up with somebody who's got a physical disability. And the first episode, when he's with Victor and they're getting stuff to eat, he's like, I asked for pickles and they give me 2, so a normal amount is 1.
Yeah,
it's just this weird petty thing to be complaining about.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. My big question for the first episode was, did we really need to see a naked penguin? That was a little too much for me. I appreciate the lengths that they're going to, but poor Colin Farrell. They had to not only put him in the whole neck and the face and stuff, but they had to like fatten him up and strip him naked and put him in a chair. That was a lot. That was a lot.
Did he really? Was he really naked then? I guess.
I guess that's the question. Does it count if you're wearing like fat prosthetics? Does that count as clothes? I don't know. That was a weird little extra bit. Big questions, Jaime?
I didn't really have any, because the big question is kind of like the point of the series. Like, how will Penguin continue to survive and perhaps even win?
Yep. Yeah. Well, episode 2 just kind of picks up and it's the same thing. I mean, more of him trying to play sides against each other, more of him, he's pitching himself as the inside man. It's the name of the episode is The Inside Man. And, we definitely get a lot more of him just trying all these different angles to play all the bad guys against each other. And we also see again that ruthless side. At one point, he thinks he's going to get ratted out by this guy who's working for Maroney. So he's just like, this guy's got to go, and he kills him. It's definitely a lot more. It's definitely a lot more ruthless than I thought it would be. It's definitely a lot more. It feels much more like a Sopranos-y than it does Batman-y to me, but not in a bad way.
Yeah, it does have that sort of dark spin that the Batman shows or movies have had in the last while.
Yeah. And a good Easter egg in the second episode too. At one point when they're talking about the damage that was done by the flood, he says, "I hear it's a no man's land down there." No Man's Land was a very good and long-running arc in the Batman comics from the early 2000s, where there is a series of things that happen in Gotham City that lead to parts of Gotham being declared a no man's land, where basically the government pulls out and they're like, the city's just a write-off. We're just going to let it go to rot. So that is a little bit of a crossover there, and again, just a nice little Easter egg in there. And the quotes are hard to do in this episode because there's a lot of swearing too. So we have to sanitize a couple of these quotes. But the best one I thought was from Oz, where he's talking about the dancing. There's a dancing motif in this episode with his mom and everything. And he says, stuff like this, the pain of it, you got to be careful because it will eat you alive if you let it. It's a hell of a lot more fun to dance. I thought that was really good. And again, he's just a terrific performer. I must admit, I've never been a huge Colin Farrell fan. I've seen him in some stuff. I can't say that I've ever loved his performance. I've always just thought they were fine, but she's really, really good in this. Jaime, do you have any quotes or anything you want to?
No, I already pulled forward the quote of the keeping up sort of thing. Again, some of these things that just give him flavor and personality. So he's not just the supervillain gangster. Like, he's a actual normal person.
Yep. And I guess the only question I had come out of the last episode was, are we being set up with Vic? Do you feel like the whole thing is going to be he's mentoring him, he's taking care of him, he's taking him under his wing? Do you think he lives through all 8 episodes? Do you think at some point the Penguin makes that call and says, it's him or me?
Boy, I feel like it's 50-50 right now as to whether he dies in the final episode.
Yeah.
Or if it's a cliffhanger to tease us into season 2.
Yeah, it could also be a moment that makes Penguin go over the edge a bit too, right?
Yeah,
like losing him because he's invested a lot of energy into him, right?
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to use his mom for that, though. I wonder if his mom dies, because she's kind of set up as this big part of his life, but she also clearly is older and not well, and I wonder if she's easier to take off the board that way. Either way, great start to the series. I must admit, I wasn't sure what to expect. I knew the quality would probably be high, but I wasn't sure if I would get drawn in just because I'm never too sure what to expect on a supervillain show when there's no hero, but it's pretty compelling.
Did you watch that Gotham series that was on?
I did. I only watched the first. I think I watched the first 2, maybe 2.5 seasons. I never finished it. It did get extraordinarily weird and campy.
Yeah, because it was a different character there with Oswald Cobblepot, right? So
yeah, and they definitely kind of went all over the place in Gotham with that stuff.
This does sort of have that Lucy vibe that I keep bringing up. You know that this person keeps getting himself into these situations, and you're like, how's he going to get himself out of it in 40 minutes?
Yeah.
So
I can see that for sure. All right, well, back next week for more. This is an 8-episode series, so not a huge commitment as far as that goes, but yeah, 2 down, 6 to go.
So watch list.
Yes, I have from Saturday Night Live the Blonde Dragon People skit from the season opener for this is season 50 of SNL.
Was that in this episode? Like this one just went by?
The one that just went by, yeah. Wait, was it in the episode? I don't think it was in the episode. No, sorry. I think this might have been a web only.
This is the David Chappelle one, right? Because we couldn't watch the link that you sent us.
Oh, man.
In Canada.
Sorry that they do that.
Yeah.
Well, I Googled it and I found David Chappelle doing the yellow blonde-haired dragon people.
No, this one was a skit that ostensibly takes place in House of the Dragon.
Yeah, this is the one, yeah.
But it wasn't Dave Chappelle one.
Well, this was, I don't know if it was a longer one, but what's his name? The guy who's been on the show forever,
Keenan,
yeah, he comes in and he says, we just got back from the ships because nothing's ever happened to our people on ships. We're really happy about being on ships.
Oh, no, this is the one where Gene Smart from Hacks, the HBO drama.
Okay, that was the episode.
That's the combination of the Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. They didn't actually air it on the episode because I did watch the episode. This was an unaired part from the dress rehearsal, I think. They just put it up online, but it's really funny.
Yeah, and it largely covers like how crazy it is to keep track of these various character names with, they do legitimately have a Rhaena, a Rhaenyra, Rhaenys, there's Rhaegar, Vagar, like just gets nuts, even for us.
Yeah, I mean, heck, it was only 2 episodes ago that I was messing up Lord of the Rings names, and yeah, I completely understand why. They're all the same. For my watch list, I started watching this documentary that popped up on Netflix. It's called Mr. McMahon. It's about Vince McMahon, the man behind the growth of the empire that is WWE, once WWF. It's produced by Bill Simmons, who did the 30 for 30 docs for ESPN, some of which are amazing. And it's a 6-parter. I've watched the first 4. It's pretty interesting the way that it kind of walks the tightrope between both nostalgically looking at sort of the rise and fall and rise again of professional wrestling in the world, but particularly in America, and also this sort of larger than life person who was kind of the brains behind this thing. And he does not come off well. But it's pretty interesting. Like, it's funny because he participated. This isn't like out of left field, but the way that they sort of put it together, he keeps saying, like, I would do anything for this company. And then they show you an anecdote and you're like, damn, he meant it. Like, there's some pretty dark stuff behind the scenes, steroids and sexual abuse allegations and pedophilia and all kinds of stuff that comes up in this stuff. It's pretty salacious, especially, I think for a lot of us at some point, I think a lot of men, particularly in North America, have a dalliance at times. I enjoyed watching wrestling with some of my friends at times in my lives. I haven't watched it for a very, very long time. It's just not a priority, but I know people who are very devoted to this and enjoy it very much. And, yeah, it's a fascinating look behind the curtain at this person who had a huge impact on not just sports, but sports entertainment and the way that we view celebrities. And it's a pretty damn good doc. I would recommend.
Well, it's a big business. The WWE is not the only one. There's like several of them now. But I mean, like The Rock and all those guys, Hulk Hogan, all that came out of it, right?
Yeah, there's it basically starts at the beginning in the 1970s when he goes to work for his dad, who was the original owner of and then sort of watches him he buys the business out from his dad and sort of starts to take it in a different direction. And then he starts to build up these, hire people away from other companies, and he starts to build up some of these characters. And yeah, I mean, in one hand, it's this great American success story. On the other hand, it's a very dark, like a lot of, stories of American success and wealth. There's a lot of shadows in that success story. So yeah, very, very interesting story. Especially if you did enjoy, wrestling when it sort of became a thing in the 1980s and really kind of grew from there and was, a huge thing. And then it kind of cratered a little bit and then it sort of surged back. It's a really interesting way to follow along and to learn more the way that some of these former people who worked for him and former wrestlers. There's a lot of famous faces in this, and Canada's Bret Hart does not enjoy the experience of having spent time with Vince and is not at all varnished about talking about it. But yeah, it's really, really interesting. I'm looking forward to the last couple. I'll watch those in the next couple of days.
Who was the Canadian wrestler that died?
Owen, that was his brother. That was Bret Hart's brother. Owen.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of those sort of tied allegations. And again, like some of this stuff ended up in court. Some of this stuff ended up out of court settlements. There's a lot of allegations. It sounds like Vince was a pretty ruthless business person and made a lot of choices and made a lot of enemies. And it's pretty interesting look at it. The other one I just stuck in here was just an Instagram clip that I caught the other day. It's from an older comedy act, but it made me laugh out loud because we do certainly take light on this show the fact that I'm not a huge Tom Cruise fan. It is just a 3 or 4 minute clip of this guy talking about why he doesn't like Tom Cruise movies and criticizing them. But damn, I laughed, and I shared it with you guys on our Spockcast hosts Slack channel, and it definitely speaks to some of the tone of this podcast. So
yeah, because that was the same movie. It's funny. I was thinking the other day about I was watching another actress, and I'm trying to remember who it was, but their movies are always the same. Like it's always the same person.
Is it Reese Witherspoon or Nicole Kidman? Because they also fall into that category of I feel like I've seen all their character.
Maybe. Well, I mean, Nicole Kidman doesn't fall far from Tom Cruise's tree, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, it was something else I was watching the other day thinking, that this is pretty much the same movie I've seen 1,000 times before, right? So,
yeah.
But a pretty good movie after all, I must say. Yeah. I'm riffing on what the guy was saying in the comedy thing, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's the same movie over and over again. It's a good movie, but you're watching it over and over again.
Well, mine are a couple of ones. Well, real quick, I tried to watch Amelie the other day. I was telling Jonathan that he should watch it again, and I hadn't seen it since it came out. I think I have it on some sort of media, might be DVD. But so I went over to Apple iTunes store and I bought it. It was on sale for $3.99 or $4.99. It was on a good price, but it's completely in French with no English subtitles.
Oh,
yeah, and I thought. Like it says it has English subtitles. So I looked around and tried it on my phone. I tried it on my iPad. I tried it on the Vision Pro. Could not get it to show me any sort of English at all. And it's a great movie. It's very visually nice to watch, but you don't understand. I mean, I remember the story from having watched it with subtitles back when I saw it in the theater. I had to return it to Apple and get my money back. It was like, what the F, right? It's disappointing. So I'll have to see if I can. I'm pretty sure I kept the media because it's that good a movie. And then to follow up from last week's episode, I don't know if you guys in the after show you heard about my kerfuffle with the AirPods Pro. I did take them back to Apple. They're very expensive, and there were so many reasons not to like them. I couldn't love them, right? So I had to go back. Maybe when they bring out the hearing aid feature, I might try again. But it just wasn't worth. The money you pay for them and the hassle trying to use them was just too much. Plus, they kept falling out of my ear, right? So, and I don't have that problem with other Bluetooth headsets or even the wired earbuds stay in my ear. So I don't know what's wrong with these particular ones, but there you go. That's it for me. So I guess until next time, Jonathan, if people want to get in touch with you, where would they find you?
You can find me on the Twitter, and the Instagram is @JPK News, or on YouTube at youtube.com/@JPK.
And Jaime, where people find you?
I'm on Twitter as @DevOfTheHair.
All right. My name is Timitra, TIMMITRA, on Mastodon and on Threads, I'm really enjoying Threads. Until next time, we'll see you in the future. Bye.
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 You've been listening to the Spotcast podcast. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spotcast website at spotcast.com. You can get in touch with us on the website or follow us on Twitter at Spotcast. If you have feedback or questions, send us a tweet with the hashtag AskSpotcast. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spotcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spotcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
Watching Doctor Who too. I should have probably mentioned that too.
You watching it on Crave?
I went back. I was watching. I'd forgotten. I had watched the Eccleston Doctor Who's, which are kind of hard to get through, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I just ended up watching the one where he regenerates into David Tennant. So I think I might watch the rest of them now. That's David Tennant. So, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that they're all on sale this week on the Canadian iTunes store. It's really funny because almost every season is $10. I'm like, well, that's all right. That's less than $1 an episode in some cases. That's pretty good.
But add up the seasons, right?
But there's 13 seasons, and that doesn't include all the specials, for which you have to pay another $3 an episode. And then on top of that, for some reason, just one season. And I get that it's a longer season. Season 5 is a longer season, but it's $37. I'm like, it's $10, $10, $10, $10, $10 across the board, and somehow $37 for the one. I'm like, well, if you're not going to make it easy, 5, which I think is the first Matt Smith.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I was like,
well, even the old, if you go back to the Tom Baker stuff, they still want way too much money for it.
Yeah,
but that could be BBC, right? It could be the rights from BBC.
It's probably that, but yeah, it's frustrating because I feel like it would be nice to have the run where you could sit and enjoy it, and obviously it's nice to have things that aren't going to get taken away. But yeah, both the DVDs, the Blu-rays, the digital copies, they're all super expensive.
I bought this afternoon. I bought No Time to Die because it's in 3D on the Vision Pro.
Oh,
and all the Bond movies this week are on sale for $9.99.
I did see that, but I didn't realize that was a 3D movie.
Yeah. I think I can't remember if I saw it in 3D or saw it on. I went and saw it at the theater.
Yeah, I did too. But yeah.
Or
actually, I don't know if I did that because that one came out somewhere in the pandemic zone. I can't remember if I saw that one.
I'm pretty sure I went by myself to that one, and I can't remember if I saw it either on IMAX or in 3D. But anyway, so I got the 3D, and I've seen it a few times. I mean, I realized once I started watching it again that I'm still fairly familiar with the movie, but I just wanted to see it in 3D. 3D makes a difference with a lot of these movies, right? So I started watching Inside Out 2 as well, but didn't make it all the way through yet.
Yeah, it was with a resounding thud that I said to my wife, hey, I see that Inside Out 2 is on Disney Plus. Do you want to watch it with me? And she said, actually, I didn't really care for the first one. And I was like, oh, man, now I have to divorce you. That's awful.
Really?
I liked that movie a lot. I thought it was really good. I was surprised how much I liked it. Maybe it just because of where I was at in my parenting life at that point, but it hit me in the feels pretty hard. I really enjoyed it. And she was like, yeah, I really didn't connect with that one. Didn't really care for it. I was like, oh, you're a monster. Now I understand. Yeah. Those moments you have about your spouse where you realize, oh, you're not who I thought you were.
Oh, speaking of what's the name of the movie with Florence Pugh? The Troublemakers, the Racketeers,
Thunderbolts?
the Thunderbolts. That's it. Yeah, that's it.
The Racketeers?
Is that Wyatt?
Yes.
What's his name? Russell?
Yes, it's Kurt Russell's kid.
Okay. Yeah, because he's got a big beard, so it's hard to see.
Yes. Yeah, again, they've lifted all these characters. The most obscure one is that they pulled Ghost out of Ant-Man 2. Because if you've gone back and watched Ant-Man 2 more than once or twice, you have a Marvel problem. Because that's not a great movie. But Ant-Man and the Wasp is where the Ghost character comes from. But apparently they've resurfaced the Ghost.
Well, I can tell you that the Ant-Man movies, the two Ant-Man, I think that one and Quantumania are available on Disney Plus in 3D on Vision Pro, and I have not watched them yet.
Yeah. And maybe they'd be better in that experience. Maybe at least then you'd be getting some cool visuals out of it.
Yeah, what did I watch the other day? I watched something the other day, and I watched, I don't know why, it must have been a low energy moment, but I watched the third episode of the third season of Galaxy, what's that called? Not Galaxy Quest, the bad Star Trek.
What do you call
it? The Orville, yeah. Dorville.
I recognize the description.
Well, and it was actually pretty good. It was pretty good until like near the end, and then they kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if you could divorce that from the experience of watching it simultaneous to Discovery and sort of the new Trek. I wonder if it would change your perspective. I wonder if you might be, yeah.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I was actually just watching the episode with 7 of 9 where she the time cops get her.
Oh yeah,
and so anyway, I just watched the Voyager blow up just before we got sat down to record today. So I have to go back and find that and watch it again. So yeah, because I think I missed like I don't know how many seasons. How many seasons were there for Voyager?
7.
Yeah, I think I missed season 6 and 7. I mean, I did see the very end of it, but I don't remember. There's gaps.
Yeah, I've been kind of lamenting because my son has been super busy since he started college. Pretty much, he hasn't really been watching very much when it comes to movies and TV shows that are sort of part of the serial, like the Marvel stuff, the Star Trek stuff. He just has not had or made time for it. And part of me is very sort of sad because it was something that we were connected by and certainly enjoyed together. And so I missed that part of it. But then I think back to when I was away at school and sort of in that same phase of my life in my early 20s. That is my biggest sort of gap that I had to go back and circle back to, because I missed multiple seasons of Voyager, Deep Space Nine, just sort of, I never got into the X-Files at all because that happened during that stretch. Like there was just a huge gap in my cultural knowledge that I eventually went back, especially when we got into the TV on DVD and then later on to the streaming. I could catch up on a lot of that stuff, but it's it's one of those things that you do realize that you are getting older when you realize that he's just at that phase of his life where that part is not as big a priority as the job and the schoolwork and all the other stuff that comes up. And of course that's going to happen, but it's pretty weird to sort of be like, hey, you want to watch this thing? I said to him the other day, like, oh, I'm really enjoying the new Agatha show. He's like, yeah, I'll probably watch that in the next few years at some point. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I remember like I think from first year university till probably it might have been like 10 years. Other than music on the radio, I didn't really do much TV watching, right? So
yeah, like
I missed Wayne Gretzky's career, like essentially.
Well, and it was a lot harder in that era too, because you're old enough that like it's not like you could go back and stream it afterwards. We were at that point still renting movies from the store and stuff. It was such a different place.
Well, it was even before that, because before I didn't start renting movies till I really kind of met you, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We didn't rent movies at all. Like we didn't have a VCR, right?
Yeah. But it's funny how you can just have these sort of pauses and gaps and stuff like that. And it's going to happen. There was actually, when I had my littlest kids, it was actually easier because I'd be up in the middle of the night doing feedings and stuff like that. I watched like all of Buffy and Angel with infants and then toddlers hanging around because they had no idea what was happening on the TV and didn't care. And I could sit there at 3:00 in the morning and bottle feed my babies and watch a couple episodes of Buffy.
I'm just watching all these trailers in silence on IMDb. So I'm watching Ballerina right now.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks like it could be a real banger, and I like her. I think she's a good performer. I enjoyed Knives Out. I thought she was really good.
Yeah, she was good in Blade Runner too, and the Bond movie.
Yeah,
the one we just talked about.
Yeah, No Time to Die. Yeah, no, I think she's good.
And we've only got 3 more weeks to go.
3 more weeks of
debates and bad people on Twitter and
yeah.
3. It's closer to 4 probably, depending where you're counting, because the election is on the 5th.
Well, today's the 4th of October now, isn't it? November 4th is election day.
No, it's the 5th. It's Tuesday, the 5th.
Oh, okay, the 5th.
Yeah,
they moved it. Must be a leap year, or something. But
it lines up funny. I swear it was like the 8th or something last time or the time before. It's probably that first full week.
It's always the first Tuesday in November every 4 years, right? And so it just depends on where the calendar's at that point, depending on leap years and other things. But yeah, it has been the 4th before, because I remember covering elections and also knowing that it was my mom's birthday.
Yeah, and didn't that's true. Didn't because Hillary Clinton won the popular vote,
She
right?
She did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so who knows? It was interesting. LOTR put out a song today called "Apathy Wins the Elections," right?
Mm.
How do the bad people get in? Apathy. Just don't bother voting.
Yeah. There's a good New York Times podcast this week about the Electoral College and just
what a nightmare that
just
is. Yeah.
how that can skew things and all the sort of, they sort of talk a little bit about the history about it and also just how it could come into play going forward. It was a pretty interesting conversation. Actually, you know what? It wasn't the Times podcast. It was actually the Daily Show had a guest talking about it who wrote a book who talked about that. But yeah, it was really good.
I'm really enjoying the Daily Show riffs. Is that other guy? Like it's Jon Stewart on Mondays, but it's the other 2 hosts or the other 3 hosts hosted during the week? Or?
Yeah, so basically they rotate. So it's a rotation between Michael Costa, Ronnie Chang, Desi Lydic, and one more. Oh, that poor guy that they sent out, Jordan Klepper, the guy they sent out to do those Trump rallies. Poor Jordan. God.
Nice.
He said they give him like 5 security guys to go with him to those events.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, he's like, there's no way in the world. He's like, it's me and a camera person, a producer, and 5 security guys.
But he's ruthless with his interviewing, right?
Oh, like he takes the piss out of those people so bad.
And they have no idea, right?
Well, I mean, they kind of get themselves into it. Like, all he kind of does is point out the hypocrisy of their beliefs. But yeah, he's pretty merciless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like him. He's a funny guy. Actually, I really like the lineup they have right now on the Daily Show. I don't get to watch it every time, but I listen to the podcast version often when I'm driving.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yes. Already. So we've got some. We finally got some Trek on the horizon.
When is Lower Decks coming?
I'm just gonna. I have it right here. I wrote it down. Not far.
Is it like this month?
Yes, it is. Yes. So Tomb Raider cartoon comes on the 10th. What We Do in the Shadows comes on the 21st, and Lower Decks comes on the 24th. So yeah, 3 weeks. And then Silo's back in November.
So Tomb Raider's an animated?
Yep. And it's not only animated, it's anime.
Where is it going to be?
Netflix on the 10th.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Gee, I wonder what she's going to go in search of.
It's Tomb Raider: The Legend of Lara Croft.
Oh, that's not a game?
It does sound like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much. Wasn't it called Tomb Raider Legend? I'm just going to look it up here. Tomb Raider Legend of Lara Croft. That's the show you're talking about.
Yeah.
Pretty sure there was a game called Legend.
I mean, did you finish watching that Terminator show?
I did. Yeah.
You enjoy it?
I did, but I think it's got some weird flaws as it integrates in an anime sort of viewpoint. So it's not perfect, but I think it's definitely worth watching to see, how do you interpret the Terminator franchise through a Japanese style lens.
Yeah, I've had it on my watch list, but sucked into a few other things this last couple weeks. Since you're there and everything, can you shake your partner and ask her to get back to me about Thanksgiving? Isn't this wacky, right, Jaime, this Canadian Thanksgiving thing?
Yeah, I was like, man, you guys are really planning ahead of time, and I stupidly forgot that you guys have it an entire month ahead.
No, you know what my plan is for American Thanksgiving? It's football. Football on a Thursday. I'm like,
I was going to say, don't we watch football on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I think there's Canadian football on. Usually, don't they play? I think that's when they do the rivalries, and it's like Buffalo. It's Hamilton versus Toronto, and all the Calgary versus Edmonton, and all these sort of rivalry matchups.
Yeah. So back on the Tomb Raider thing, it says on the 2024 version that it takes place after the reboot of Lara Croft.
Oh, okay.
So
is it like in continuity with that?
Well, because I think it looks like I'm looking at the game titles here, but Tomb Raider Legend was kind of like a retelling, like a rehashing of the lore of Lara Croft, and it kind of had a bunch of flashbacks in it. And then there was one called Underworld shortly after, and then there was the one that just was the best one was the one that they just finished. The last two titles were pretty good. Like they were fun to play and challenging and all that kind of stuff. Less monkeys being shot, kind of thing, right? But I guess I never wondered why. Like, I mean, when the game first came out, you ran around shooting alligators and monkeys who were trying to rabid monkeys, right?
Yeah, I remember there being one of the games we had to shoot dogs, and I was like, I don't feel good about this.
Yeah,
I'd rather shoot a human.
Kind of weird. Yeah, or not shoot them at all. But exactly. So, but you got points for doing that, I guess, because it was about tomb raiding. It was about raiding the tombs and getting the artifacts and stuff, right? So
yeah, I mean that's what I liked about the Uncharted one, where they kind of took that concept but made it a little more puzzly and a little less shooty. I like the puzzly parts.
The last Tomb Raider I played was very similar to that. What was that? The Red Dead Redemption?
Yeah.
Very similar to that. You had all these sort of side missions and quests. Like you had a main story, but you could it was like a free world. You could travel from place to place. Like she actually stops and builds a camp, right? But you could like transport from one camp to another once you had established the camp, right? And then you could go and explore the area and try different things. You weren't stuck on a timeline, like a straight line, like you were in the original Lara Croft games, right? Like you had to go on the path, right? And you had to leap through the obstacles in order, right? But this was much more free range, right?
Yeah.
Climb trees and shoot stuff and whatever. Yeah.
I have to find time. Maybe next time we have a gap in our podcast schedule. I haven't really played a game since I played the Jedi Survivor, and I enjoyed it. But I feel like I should make time for that.
I haven't had time to play any games in like a year, so
yeah, it's almost been that for me. I think it was last winter I finished that one, but the kids got me the second one, the Jedi Dark Fate or whatever that it's called, but I haven't actually sat down and played it yet. It's just been sort of sitting there.
Well, I've never even played a PS5, so there you go. Still hawking that PS4.
Well, yeah, now you can save up and get the PS5 Pro, which is even more expensive than the first one. I think they said that the price in Canadian dollars is like $970 or something. Like, go.
Yeah, and then they complain about the Vision Pro, right?
Yeah, like we're kind of entering a bit of a place with this stuff now.
Yeah. So, Jaime, what do you think about these new Snap glasses and Meta's?
Oh yeah, what do you guys think of the Meta one? I was curious to.
Vaporware Orion. Well, apparently it costs like $10,000 to make a pair of glasses, so I don't think it's going to be coming out anytime soon. But it does sound interesting. It's definitely not it's not in the same category as Vision Pro. It's more like the HoloLens that Microsoft had, where you're actually looking at your surroundings and they're projecting objects into the view, right? So, I mean, it has a knocks against it. The things that people are knocking against the Vision Pro is even worse on Orion, apparently. But yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I kind of think the concept that they did for the way they built the glass is different. It's not like visual glass. It's kind of like a special material. But yeah, I don't know. And the idea of a puck. Well, I've already got a phone. Why can't they use a phone to do that? Right?
Yeah,
you have to carry the puck with you.
I think all of this stuff, the Vision Pro is in the same bucket where it's like it all just feels a little cumbersome still. I mean, I've seen obviously the kit you have for yours, and like it's portable, but it's a lot. It's certainly not.
Yeah, but you know what? The thing for me though is like I'm sitting at my desk right now, right? Because that's where my big microphone is, and I'm looking at 3 screens right now, right? But when I got the Vision Pro on, like, it doesn't matter where I am. I can be sitting in the backyard, I could be sitting on the couch, I could be sitting in the kitchen, and I can work on my Mac with a big giant screen, and sometimes I just put the Vision Pro on just to work, right? But not just watch TV and movies and stuff. We just switched over to Bell for our TV channels, and talk about trying to get certain people to make a commitment to things. She wouldn't tell me what channels she wanted. I just went and bought a couple of packages and said, "Here, TV works."
Yeah.
But I haven't turned on my actual physical TV in like months until like this last couple of weeks, right? So
yeah, I know that it's going to come for me soon because basketball season's coming up, and that's usually where I will sit down and just watch regular linear TV. I honestly feel like if it was a little more affordable, I would love to just spend the money on like the NBA pass or something, because like there's so few things I actually want to sit down and watch, but live NBA basketball is one of them.
Yeah, the NBA app is kind of cool. I've played around with that, but I don't have an account, obviously. So, but what does Jaime think about it? The new glasses and stuff. We didn't get the answer to that.
I mean, it's fascinating that people are still trying on this stuff, but it's still got a ways to go tech-wise before it'll be sort of average everyday thing. Ignoring price, because that'll come down. People are like, "Oh my gosh, Zuckerberg's wearing these normal glasses." I'm like, those are not normal glasses. You will definitely get teased out of school and have to change schools if you went looking like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a friend of mine who's a designer who has a Vision Pro, he was given a pair of Snap glasses at that conference, and he looks like Brains from he has no hair, so he looks like Brains from Thunderbirds wearing them because he's got the big glasses on, right? So they're not regular size glasses. Even if you look at the Facebook ones, it didn't tell you, was it like a whole whopping 45 minutes of battery life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
pretty weak.
They still haven't solved that problem yet.
It feels like battery technology is the one hurdle that is holding back a lot of stuff.
Do you know, the story of my life is batteries, because when I first came to Canada, I was like 6 years old. My parents, for Christmas that year, I got a car racetrack, right? But it wasn't the kind that plugged into the wall. It ran off D-cell batteries, right? And the toy lasted 2 days. So my entire life, I have been cursed by batteries.
Right.
Either running out or whatever, right? So it's just, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And with the Vision Pro and the short life on it and my Mac, I go from plugging one or the other into a USB port somewhere, right? And I can never get a phone to last all day too. I'm always like looking for power on those. So everything's always plugged in somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exact thing just happened to me as I sat down to record with you guys. I realized my phone was down. It was charged this morning, but by the time I got to this, it was completely empty again.
Yeah. Well, I'll send you. I don't know. Are you on iOS 18 yet? Or?
No, not yet.
There's a channel I follow where they talk about going into all the settings on your phone and turning off this and that chews up your battery, that you don't even think about it, that Apple just turns on.
Oh, that'd be great. Default. Yeah, if you can send that me.
Yeah. I don't, to be honest.
Mine's not that bad. Sherry's is really bad.
I don't know if it makes a difference. Well, you know what? I just ended up buying, so the 14 Pro, there's a thing called Battery Health. If you go into the battery app, the 14 Pro is still under Apple Care, and I just got a new battery put in that one. And then Carol's iPhone 12, she's now on my 14, I'm on a 16, right? And so, because I can now take spatial photo if the photo app doesn't crash, but or the camera app, I should say. But the iPhone 12, I just bought a battery for too, because Carol wants to send it down to Pat, right? Because apparently Pat can't do her banking on her phone.
Yeah, I think Faye's going to hit the wall because she's got a 10. I think the wall will be hit very next.
She's got my old 10.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's
maybe whisper in Carol's ear about that one, because I know the banking app will work on the 10.
Yeah,
if you know what I'm saying. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Well, because I did a valuation on the 12 is worth $350, right? So that's why the paying $125 for $130 for a battery makes sense, because it's still worth.
Yeah.
The phone still has value, right? So
yeah.
And
sorry, how are you enjoying iOS 18? I'm on the last but one for that before that one, and it's been sending me prompts, and I was like, should I do it? I don't know. I read a little bit about it, but not too much.
It's okay. I don't know that I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't like the control panel. Is kind of weird. I mean, it's just an update. It's I think Mark said it best on more than just code when we talked about it. It's a meh upgrade. There's nothing really compelling. And it's almost like it's not ready. Like the iPhone 16, right? There's so many things on it. Like it doesn't have Apple Intelligence yet, right? There's something else in it that's not ready yet. So it's kind of like this phone isn't ready for the real world. Oh, and the camera button on the side. What a joke that is.
Oh, really?
I can't.
Oh, really?
Well, it's supposed to have. You can do all the settings and changes like that. You can do on the screen anyway, right? But it's got this. Somehow you're supposed to be able to slide your finger on it, or double tap on it, or long press, or I have no idea. The focus lock. Like on a DSLR, you can focus on a subject and reframe the shot.
Yeah.
Right? They're adding that. It's not in the phone yet. It's a software update. So. I don't know why we to be honest with you, all I can do is set the exposure on this. I've got it in my hand right now, and all I can set is the exposure. I can't figure out how to get to all the other settings that are supposed to be in this button. Dumb. It's like why did he even bother putting it? And it's in the wrong place because your finger doesn't naturally fall where it is, and it's supposed to be the shutter, right? Well, I've been holding my phone upside down and using the volume plus button as my shutter, right? It's I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. Oh, I just took a picture, and it crashed. Did it save the picture? Probably not. Nope. It took a picture by itself, but it crashed in the process of take. Yes, it's the weirdest thing. Like, if I go to take a picture, let me take a picture, and the app crashed, yeah. So I have to reboot it to take a picture. Stupid. So don't update yet, John.
Yeah, is that your endorsing way of saying don't do it?
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's this phone or whatever, but this is the only phone I have that's on 18. Well, Carol has her phone on 18. I should try it. If she's got the 14 with the new battery in it. But yeah, this one, I don't know. It just keeps crashing. I don't know if I'm still within the window to take it back. When did I buy this? Anyway.
Yeah, I'm still on the old 13 here, so I don't know how well some of these features won't even work, right?
They will.
Yeah. I remember some of them. They said there was a couple features that like you have to have at least I think it's at least a 14 or is it at least a 15
Oh, yeah.
for some of this stuff. Eventually I'll get a new phone, but it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
There hasn't been and from what I've seen, there really hasn't been like a massive leap in phones for the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I need to upgrade is because one of my kids will go, my phone stopped working, and I'll go, oh damn, now I have to get a new phone.
I don't know. How about you? Are you on iOS 18 yet, or?
No, I'm not. There appears to be some pretty baffling Safari 18 bugs related to web views that's causing us pain at work. So
yeah,
I've held off on upgrading for the moment because going into so next week I'll be out for a conference work trip, and then another one coming up in November. So might wait until after that one, or if some of these patches come out and fix the issue, then it won't be like, oh look, I'd love to show you our stuff working. Unfortunately, because of Apple, wink wink, there's this bug and I can't show you. So I'm gonna have to delay upgrading for a bit.
Yeah. Okay. So tomorrow is my day to return the phone if I want to return it. That's just funny. Isn't that hilarious?
The way it goes.
Because it's 2 weeks, right? When you bought it? Yeah. Anyway, let's call it.
Alrighty, guys.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to you next week.
Bye.
Yeah.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Shop Macy's VIP sale, going on now. Use your coupon or Macy's card and take an extra 30% off the latest fall trends from designers that rarely go on sale. And save 15% off skincare, makeup, fragrances, and more. Plus, shop fall specials for even more great deals on top brands at Macy's. Savings off regular and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.